The war in Iran has entered a new phase. President Trump announced yesterday. We're going to give you all the details of that breaking story and tell you what it looks like going forward in the Middle East and for our United States military. Good morning. I'm Larry O'Connor. This is the brand new O'Connor and Company. Looking forward to waking up with you every single day. Also, in the next 3 hours, we're going to have a conversation with the incredible Mollie Hemingway from The Federalist, the amazing Sean Spicer from Trump 1.0 to talk about his new book, Trump 2.0. And of course, our Salem colleague and superstar Scott Jennings will comment on the news of the day and the politics of the day. Pour yourself a hot cup of coffee and get ready for 3 hours of O'Connor and Company right after the headlines. We'll see you in 5.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us from the SNC World Headquarters in New York. I'm Deontay Maroney with the top stories we're following at this hour. Starting today, President Trump says the U.S. will begin a new operation to free ships stranded in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran, meanwhile, warns the U.S. Navy to steer clear of the strait. Kara Angeline Oliver reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington will begin a new operation to free ships stranded in the Strait of Hormuz on Monday. He's calling it a humanitarian gesture to help neutral countries caught up in the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. Soon after his comments, however, there were reports of a tanker being attacked, while Iran warned the U.S. Navy to stay clear of the area. Tehran has blocked nearly all shipping from the Gulf for more than 2 months. Last month, Washington responded by imposing its own blockade on ships leaving Iranian ports. In a Sunday post on Truth Social, Trump said the United States had told affected countries it would guide their ships safely out of restricted waters so they could get back to business. It was not immediately clear which countries the U.S. would aid or how the plan would work, though Trump warned that any interference with the operation would be met forcefully. It all comes as Iran reviews a U.S. response to its latest peace proposal. State media say Washington's reply was delivered through Pakistan, though this has not been confirmed by U.S. officials. Tehran has proposed ending the war and resolving the standoff over Gulf shipping first, while pushing talks on its nuclear program to a later stage.
Big changes have come to SNC Mornings. It's premiere week for O'Connor and Company. Join Larry O'Connor as he brings sharp analysis and trusted perspective to the stories shaping our nation. It's one part news, one part politics, with a ton of entertainment thrown in. Watch beginning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time right here on Salem News Channel. In New York, I'm Deontay Maroney.
At this hour on SNC.
A look at today's top stories.
Reporting on today's biggest political headlines and breaking news.
That's what you need to know at this hour.
On Salem News Channel.
Well, you know me. I believe in freedom, independence, and the values that built this country. Now, I'll be the first to say President Trump has taken the steps towards reviving our economy. But inflation, trade deficits, and global uncertainty are hitting hardworking Americans where it hurts. Here's the truth. I refuse to let these hidden forces decide my future. That's why I help protect my wealth with real assets, physical gold and silver. For generations, these metals have held value, no matter who's in office or what the markets do. To me, gold and silver mean independence, not just for today, but for tomorrow. If you want the peace of mind I found, it's time to take action. I've partnered with the #1 rated precious metals company, Goldco, and right now they're offering first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified accounts. Visit lauralikesgold.com to learn how to help safeguard your savings the way I do. That's lauralikesgold.com. Well, you know me. I believe in freedom, independence, and the values that built this country. Now, I'll be the first to say President Trump has taken the steps towards reviving our economy. But inflation, trade deficits, and global uncertainty are hitting hardworking Americans where it hurts. Here's the truth. I refuse to let these hidden forces decide my future. That's why I help protect my wealth with real assets, physical gold and silver. For generations, these metals have held value, no matter who's in office or what the markets do. To me, gold and silver mean independence, not just for today, but for tomorrow. If you want the peace of mind I found, it's time to take action. I've partnered with the #1 rated precious metals company, Goldco, and right now they're offering first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified accounts. Visit lauralikesgold.com to learn how to help safeguard your savings the way I do. That's LaraLikesGold.com.
The secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most sought-after anti-aging products available today. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags in as little as 10 minutes. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects will last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results.
Look at this one under-eye bag. It's gone.
I've tried it all, and then I found Plexiderm, and this happened.
The best news, in this super inflated economy, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95 and free shipping. So don't wait. Just call the number on your screen.
Call 800-826-0172. No safe spaces, no pulling punches. It's the Mike Gallagher Show.
Join us for a fast-paced, unpredictable, entertaining exploration of breaking news and what to make of it. The Mike Gallagher Show on Salem News Channel.
Politics, entertainment. This is O'Connor and Company.
As the sun rises over your nation's capital, Washington, the District of Columbia, we've got a very busy day ahead of us, and it's great to start it with you here on O'Connor and Company. To our regular listeners in Washington, D.C. on the mighty WMAL, good morning. Great to talk with you again. I'm Larry O'Connor. And for all of our new friends joining us for the first time coast to coast, can't tell you how excited we are to bring what we do every morning here in Washington to you as we focus on the most important stories that matter. Yes, in politics, but also in your neighborhood, in your schoolroom, in your church, in your neighborhood, all across the country. This is the American neighborhood that we talk about every single day. And we're going to get to the description of our show and who we are, where we came from, and why you're listening to us now for the first time in a little bit. But we always have a motto on this program: always lead with the news, always lead with the facts. So let's do that, because there's kind of a big story breaking over the last 24 hours as President Trump announced that the conflict in Iran has entered a new phase, as he called it, the humanitarian phase. Now, this is an important thing, because the president has now brought an end to Operation Epic Fury. That matters. It matters big time in terms of the Constitution, the law, Congress putting pressure on the president. And it also matters to the men and women overseas right now, waiting to finish this project and hopefully bring freedom to the Iranian people. First, let's begin with the president on Friday, as he was beginning his weekend in Mar-a-Lago, as he was leaving on the South Lawn. As always, the most accessible, transparent president in our lifetime, engaged with reporters and answered questions to a certain extent. Here, take a watch.
The which? No, I haven't. I'm looking at it up here. Yeah, I'll let you know about it later. But
last night you said we might be better off not making a deal with Iran.
Well, I wouldn't have to. I didn't say that. I said that if we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. But we're not leaving right now. We're going to do it so nobody has to go back in 2 years or 5 years.
Now, again, this is the framing of our engagement in Iran, and it's important to recognize what the president is saying. Number one, we've already succeeded on multiple levels. You're going to hear a lot from Democrats who, it appears, aren't really on our side on this conflict, who apparently are more intent on trying to win the midterm elections and set themselves up for the 28th presidential election than look at the historic aspect of what's going on here and what our military has been able to accomplish. Right now, Iran has no Air Force left. They have no Navy left. The entire hierarchy, and then the next two levels down from the hierarchy of their political control, has been annihilated. And yet you will still have senators like Chris Murphy, or potential political candidates like J.B. Pritzker and Gavin Newsom sitting in front of a camera, talking to a teleprompter reader on the studio set of a Sunday show, saying Iran is stronger right now than they were before this engagement, that they're in a better position. Of course, they get no pushback or challenge from the aforementioned teleprompter reader because that's not their job. Their job, of course, is to help the Democrats win the next election. But the fact of the matter is Iran is hurting right now. And the recent blockade from our Navy to all of the Iranian ports has actually strangled the Iranian economy. If they can't ship oil out of their ports, they're done. They're right back in the dark ages where they belong. And that's what's happening right now. It's why Iran was desperate to get back to the negotiation table. Feebly, at the beginning of the weekend, they said, hey, let's negotiate. Yeah, we're not going to talk about any of the nuclear stuff, but let's negotiate the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. This is actually a worse offer than they gave 10 days ago when the blockade really began. And so, of course, the president's team held firm. Now, at the last minute, after the president announced that he'd begin escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz, they desperately again said, okay, fine, we'll talk about the nukes. Let's go talk about the nukes. You want to talk about nukes? We love talking about nukes. The problem is the American side of the equation, our negotiating delegation has no idea if the people that they're talking to can actually deliver. We saw that after the ceasefire was first announced because apparently members of the IRGC and other military renegades in Iran didn't get the memo on the ceasefire and they continued to fire. So right now, President Trump and his negotiating team, they have the upper hand. They have created leverage in this situation and they plan on squeezing their opponent until they get everything that they want, or until they get everything they want and they can offer the other side some sort of face-saving fig leaf to walk away from the table. It's important in that culture. So what does it mean that we've ended Operation Epic Fury? Well, first and foremost, what it means is we are now in the process, no longer in a hostile stance toward our adversary. It means that we are now on a humanitarian basis going to begin escorting those ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Take a look at this graphic right here showing the maritime traffic there in the Gulf and near the Strait of Hormuz. There are hundreds of ships, both oil tankers as well as other kinds of cargo vessels that have been clogged there for weeks since the illegal blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. They cannot go through that strait lest they get fired on by the hostile enemy. And of course, insurance companies have been reticent to extend any coverage for those ships should that happen. This is a problem, not only an economic problem, but it's a humanitarian problem for all of those countries who are hoping to get the products and goods that are sitting on those cargo ships. They are now in desperate need of the trade, the international trade and commerce that the Strait of Hormuz represents. Now, U.S. Navy vessels will begin escorting those ships to bring that aid to those countries that have been waiting for it. Iran has a decision to make. Do they actually want to engage in some drone attack or rocket attack or speedboat attack against a United States naval vessel? Up until now, they've tried these little attacks against a unarmed and completely defenseless oil rig, but they've not dared to do it against a Navy ship. Oh, sure, they've shot some drones over at some of our Navy ships from far away, and our ships and our sailors, they've swatted them away like little pesky flies on a summer day. Now, in close quarters, if they try it under the current terms that we have with Iran, if they try it, all hell will rain down on that country. And they know we're capable of doing it. Also, how exactly are they going to go after those Navy vessels? Their rockets and missiles have been relatively depleted by all of the airstrikes. They have some left, but they have no means of replacing them. And as we've mentioned before, they have no Navy at this point and no Air Force to speak of. All they have is sort of a renegade little motorboat Navy from the IRGC that can come in and try to menace our vessels, but that operative word there is try. So it's called Project Freedom. That's what the president has laid out. And this involves our military guiding ships from other nations through that strait. And it's already begun today. Let me give you the latest. As you were sleeping, an Iranian official warned American forces that they'll be attacked. They do a lot of warning over there if they approach or enter the oil choke point. President Trump said the military will begin guiding those ships. And oil prices, by the way, have been falling ever since this announcement was made. Oil traders internationally and globally have been waiting for this moment for the U.S. Navy to engage. And up until now, by the way, during this conflict, the Navy has not committed to doing this escort for two reasons. Number one, the president, our commander-in-chief, was hoping to have a negotiated settlement. He's a deal maker, and he's sure that any adversary across the table will eventually see reason, see the light, and come to the table with a negotiated deal. After all, there's money to be made for everybody. No one can make money when you've got all these hostilities. And doesn't everyone want to make money? Well, the president is learning, and I think he already knew it, that sometimes the person across the table from you doesn't have the same interests as you. He's not interested in commerce. He's not interested in business. He's interested in murder. And for the last nearly 50 years, that's what the Iranian regime has wanted. And so now they're going to have to make good on their threats and basically ruin their nation with our response, or they're going to have to see reason and sit and work something out with the president. Now, there has been an Iranian ship that was seized by U.S. forces, and it's now going to be returned and the crew repatriated to Iran. And as of now, Trump said that his representatives are having very positive discussions with Iran. Funny how that works out, isn't it? And we're going to have more on the Iranian situation as the morning develops. And if there is any major development with regard to the seizure of a ship, we'll let you know. But quickly, here's what Iranian TV said overnight on the BBC. They think they've got the upper hand, or at least they're saying they do.
Any blockade now imposed on Iran could easily be met with an Iranian counter-blockade on that same party through the control over the strait. And this makes it very difficult for countries that rely on passing through the Strait of Hormuz to basically comply with US pressure to block Iran, because Iran has proved that it actually possesses the stronger tools to control such a blockade. And that is very much due to its God-given geography. You know, that's something that you cannot change. Geography is really the strongest weapon that Iran has. And so any sanctions or restrictions.
Okay, ma'am, you go with that. Geography is the greatest weapon you've got until you see a Navy destroyer on the horizon. We've got Hans von Spakovsky, election law expert, coming up later.
Do you suffer in pain? Are you stiff, tense, or less active than before? Introducing the EasyWell Remedy Massage System that combines the incredible effects of vibrational therapy, targeted deep tissue shiatsu massage, plus soothing infrared heat. A triple fusion of therapeutic experiences. Full body vibrational therapy increases blood circulation and reduces inflammation. Look at these beads moving from the powerful vibrational motors.
It's like 1,000 little fingers just vibrating my body from head to toe.
Infrared heat penetrates deep to reduce pain, soothe, and relax.
Remedy gets in there and helps deal with the source of the pain, so you feel much better.
The Ultra Shiatsu pillow with 6 infrared heated nodes mimics a professional massage. Plus, it's detachable for deep relief anywhere you need it.
It's just something that you're gonna have to feel for yourself.
Experience the true remedy for your pain and stiffness. Call now.
Well, you know me. I believe in freedom, independence, and the values that built this country. Now, I'll be the first to say President Trump has taken the steps towards reviving our economy. But inflation, trade deficits, and global uncertainty are hitting hardworking Americans where it hurts. Here's the truth. I refuse to let these hidden forces decide my future. That's why I help protect my wealth with real assets, physical gold and silver. For generations, these metals have held value, no matter who's in office or what the markets do. To me, gold and silver mean independence, not just for today, but for tomorrow. If you want the peace of mind I found, it's time to take action. I've partnered with the #1 rated precious metals company, Goldco, and right now they're offering first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified accounts. Visit LauraLikesGold.com to learn how to help safeguard your savings the way I do. That's LauraLikesGold.com.
Would you rather be stuck in a foreign hospital or be moved to a hospital at home? If your security is threatened while traveling, do you have someone to call? Hi, I'm Kevin McCullough, and I'll never be without MedJet, air medical transport, and security response membership. global protection. Enroll prior to travel.
New York City looks beautiful today. It's 22 minutes after the hour. Good morning, O'Connor Company. I'm Larry O'Connor. And yeah, coming up, Hans von Spakovsky. He's with Advancing American Freedom. He's our legal analyst on the program. And I want you to know, our usual legal analyst on Monday mornings would be Joe DeGeneva. Has been for years, close to 20 years now. Been the legal analyst giving us his perspective as a former U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia. He's just gotten a new assignment. For those of you who don't know, he has now been assigned as a counselor to the Attorney General, but specifically to oversee the investigation of that grand jury that's been impaneled down in the Southern District of Miami to look into the Russian collusion hoax. Joe DeGeneva has forgotten more about the Russian collusion hoax than most lawyers in Washington. So Joe DeGeneva is on assignment for the good of our Constitution right now. And when he's done with that job, he'll come right back here and be our legal analyst. But starting today, Hans von Spakovsky is going to join us. That's coming up at the bottom of this hour. Also this morning, we've got the amazing Mollie Hemingway joining us, editor-in-chief of The Federalist. She's got a brand new book. Also, Sean Spicer is going to join us, also with a book. I got to get a book. Should I write a book? Let's write a book. Everyone's got a book. And then Scott Jennings, our colleague on Salem, as well as the incredible, brilliant analyst on CNN. I don't know if you saw, but Scott, everyone says, how does Scott Jennings sit on that panel show and, take it every single day? It's 4-on-1, including Abby Phillips from CNN. She's supposed to be the moderator, but she piles on Scott Jennings all the time. Never lets him finish without interrupting. Finally, it got to him last week. He finally showed that he is, in fact, human, and he lost his temper for like 30 seconds. And Jim Acosta is calling for him to be fired. Jim Acosta, the guy who got fired from CNN. So we'll talk to Scott Jennings coming up in the program as well. But just for a quick moment, because I honestly don't like talking about myself that much. I do like talking about my wife and my children quite a bit. But I don't like talking about myself. But I recognize that suddenly, after talking to the greater Washington area for going on 15 years now, either first thing in the morning or for a few years during everyone's afternoon drive home, that today we've got company. Everyone in Washington on our flagship station, WMAL, we're now suddenly finding ourselves coast to coast with national syndication on the Salem network. And we are so excited and so thrilled to bring our conversation that we have every morning from the nation's capital to everyone in this nation. And so briefly, you might not know who I am, and that's okay. hopefully we'll get to know each other quite a bit, and I'll get to know you as well over the next several years because, well, this is talk radio and you get to talk to me. In fact, if you're interested, 855-784-4255. If you want to jump in and engage in the conversation all morning long, we'd love to talk to you as well. My name's Larry O'Connor. I'm currently the editor of Town Hall, which is part of the Salem media family. You know Town Hall, our website's townhall.com, of course, one of the original right-of-center political analysis websites. But our entire family includes the incredible hotair.com, redstate.com, pjmedia.com, twitchy.com, and bearingarms.com. That's the entire family of websites and digital platforms, social media platforms known as Town Hall. And I'm honored to be the editor of those sites, that site in particular, townhall.com. I started in this world thanks to Andrew Breitbart. It was 17 years ago when I was working as a theater manager in Southern California, working on big Broadway musicals and smaller shows as well. I used to general manage the Shubert Theater in Los Angeles. And Andrew Breitbart said on the Dennis Miller radio show that he was starting a conservative website for people in the entertainment business. I reached out and said, yeah, I've been sort of a closeted conservative for many years. Andrew Breitbart responded. I started writing for him. He made me an editor of one of his sites. I started a live stream radio show back in 2009. And, well, here we are. I eventually ended up filling in for Dennis Miller in his national radio show, and then Hugh Hewitt. And then I was hired by WMAL in Washington, D.C. in 2012, and I haven't looked back. It's been amazing. Salem News Channel viewers will remember that I had a primetime show for a year back in 22 when this channel first launched. And that was great and fantastic and really set me up for this new era. And now I recognize I follow in the footsteps of giants, not only Hugh Hewitt, who used to be the morning man here on Salem nationwide, who is a friend and a mentor, but also, ironically, Chris DeGaulle, the man who used to wake you up until about 5 weeks ago when he decided to run for Congress. Well, Chris DeGaulle is literally my best friend, and he was the best man at my wedding. I am humbled and honored to now be picking up the microphone where he left it, and hopefully, over the course of the next several days and weeks, we're going to have a great relationship. 855-784-4255. Give us a call. Coming up on Spakovsky. Good morning. It's O'Connor and Company.
You're watching Salem News Channel across America.
From the SNC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Clay Osterly. We're following a chance for some thunderstorms at the lower levels across much of the West today. We'll see some of that across California, Nevada, into Utah, all the way across the Central Plains there. Now, at higher terrain, we'll likely see some snow in the Sierra Nevadas, up in the Rockies as well. Enough to probably trigger some winter storm warnings up in the mountains, so we will see several inches of snowfall, and it could be heavy at times as well. Some rain for the northern plains and across Fargo into Duluth. We're also looking for a chance of a couple of isolated thunderstorms capable of producing some hail or some wind from Des Moines down to Springfield and over towards Columbus, Ohio, and that would be later on this afternoon. Chance of a couple of non-severe thunderstorms across the Northeast, and also if you're heading out to the beaches across South Florida today, look out for a spotty thunderstorm. I'm meteorologist Clay Osterly, Salem News Channel.
Watch weather updates through.
Don't get left out in the rain. Get an accurate and personalized weather consultation for any event by scheduling a call with Storm Guides. Go to stormguides.live and schedule your call today. Storm Guides, the calm in the storm.
Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates.
If you want to defeat the narratives with the truth, our show is for you.
Every day, 1 to 3 Eastern, it's common sense for the American people. The Scott Jennings Show, only on Salem News Channel.
Connor and Company now returning to you 33 minutes after the hour. Sun not quite up in Phoenix, Arizona, but hope you're listening out there in the home state of my friend Meghan McCain. Love Arizona. Joining us right now, Hans von Spakovsky. He's the senior legal fellow at Advancing American Freedom, and he has forgotten more about election law that most people know in this country. And now our regular, if not permanent, legal advisor here on the program. Hans, thanks for joining us, and thanks for picking up Joe DeGenevive's mantle.
Well, sure, and I'm glad you're on camera. Well, it means now I have to put on a suit and tie. I can't do your show in my pajamas like I usually do.
That's right. Anyone listening on the network or at WMAL in Washington, you can watch us on Salem News Channel as well. That's on Roku and Samsung TV and wherever you like to stream your stuff. But Hans, come on. We all figured that you go to bed in a suit and tie. You're just that kind of guy. You're always well-tailored. And in fact, well, I saw you at the Kentucky Derby. We're going to talk to you about the Kentucky Derby a little bit later.
Okay.
But first, if you could give us amazing. Listen, if you can give us an update on Virginia, especially because I know, especially our WMAL listeners in the greater Washington area, but honestly, this affects everyone nationwide when it comes to the midterm elections. As of now, that election, the referendum that would redraw these districts in favor of Democrats, like radically in favor of Democrats, and disenfranchise Republicans in the Commonwealth of Virginia to the tune of losing four of their 5 remaining seats in the House of Representatives. That still has not been certified. The Supreme Court of Virginia has said, do not certify this election yet. What does that tell you about this legal process, Hans?
Well, there was an injunction issued by one of the county courts. The state asked the Supreme Court to stay it, basically suspend that injunction. They refused to do it. They heard the case a week ago. That is the state Supreme Court. So we're now waiting for a decision. But the fact that they refused to stay it, I think, probably gives hope to those who sued. The issue basically is that the speed with which the Democrats passed this referendum in the legislature, because the state says you have to first pass a referendum to change the Constitution in the General Assembly twice, and then it goes to the voters. But in essence, what the lower court said is you didn't follow the proper procedures. You didn't give notice to voters. There wasn't a complete intervening election in between because early voting had already started. If the state Supreme Court enforces the Constitution, well, then the referendum will be null and void. But will they do that? I don't know the answer to that.
You know, there's some suggestion that they won't follow the Constitution because, unlike the United States Supreme Court, these positions on the Virginia Supreme Court, they are term limited out. And it's not the governor who reappoints them. It's this very same legislature that these justices would be basically undermining and spanking. So in other words, they'll set aside the jurisprudence, they'll set aside the Constitution just to keep their jobs.
Well, that is a real problem, and that's a real defect in the way Virginia works under its Constitution. Basically, they have a very strong General Assembly, and the judges across the state are subject to the jurisdiction of the state legislature. So I think, unfortunately, that sometimes influences them the wrong way.
Hans, there are a lot of people who look at this argument right now before the Supreme Court of Virginia, and the proponents, the Democrats, who want this redistricting to happen. They want to disenfranchise all of these Southern voters and rural voters and lower income voters. Right. They want them to be subject to the wealthy few in Fairfax that live within like a 5-mile radius. They say, oh, this is just a procedural thing. That it's not really important when this legislative session happened and the fact that there were already votes coming in. That's just the fine print. That's just dotting I's and crossing T's. Is that really what this amounts to? It just happens to be a procedural thing that shouldn't stand in the way of all the millions of voters that voted for this? Or is there a real reason, a legitimate reason why that provision is in there?
Yeah, this is not just a procedural thing because they're amending the Constitution. Remember, in order to do this, they have to approve getting rid of the independent redistricting commission that the Democrats, actually put in a couple of years ago in the state constitution. Those procedural safeguards are there so that what just happened doesn't happen. You get a rush to get a constitutional amendment passed. That's not like passing a law in the legislature that can be easily changed by a subsequent legislature. The Constitution is basically the permanent governing structure of the state. So the procedural safeguards are there so that you have a considered, measured process for changing that Constitution.
Speaking with Hans von Spakovsky, our legal analyst, and he's a specialist, by the way. I didn't really give the full resume, Hans, but you actually worked in the Justice Department, in the Civil Rights Division, specifically on election law, and you've actually served in various state bodies and county bodies. In fact, you were part of the famous Fulton County Election Commission, weren't you?
Yeah, although I try to forget that these days, given the controversy surrounding them in the last few elections.
Understandable. So listen, I'm loath to make you predict exactly how the Virginia Supreme Court might rule on this thing. But at the very least, can you give us your prediction about when they might rule? Because the clock is ticking here. The primaries. I was at an event in Prince William County, Virginia on Saturday, and a bunch of guys came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm running for the Republican primary in Virginia 7." And I was like, which Virginia 7? How do you do that exactly?
Oh, I think we're going to get a decision very quickly. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it came out this week, next week at the most, because they know that the time is ticking. We have primaries coming up, and they've got to get their decision out. I mean, that's the same reason, we heard from the Supreme Court last week on the redistricting case out of Louisiana. They came out with it because they know the election clock is moving rapidly towards November.
Yeah, and to that end, last week we saw Florida go ahead with their new map, which basically, even if Virginia goes through, Florida just negated what Virginia did. You've got Alabama now. Governor Ivey has ordered a special session. Louisiana, of course, which was at the center of the Supreme Court decision, they've postponed the primaries so that they can work on a new map. South Carolina, Tennessee also looking at it. Let's first start with those states who have affirmatively said, yeah, we're going to go forward. How does that look now? Will they be able to do it?
Well, it depends. Florida's primary is until August, so they actually had more time to change their congressional map. Tennessee is the same. Tennessee's primary is until August, so they've got time. Now, Florida's the big prize, as you know, 27 congressional seats, of which 7 were Democratic seats. Tennessee is now in session. There it's 8-1, 1 Democratic seat, so that wouldn't be that big of a pickup. Alabama is 5 Republican seats, 2 Democratic seats, so that would also be a pickup. What's interesting about the Alabama special session, which just started on Sunday, is that everybody's talking about congressional seats. But Alabama governor actually called them into session to redraw also their state Senate seats, because the Calais decision from the Supreme Court, it applies to all legislative seats. So this is going to, it's going to have a big effect potentially in Congress, but it also may have a big effect with state legislatures.
Well, and for all the crocodile tears about how this is disenfranchising and this is, a power grab from Republicans, really all they're doing is making the southeastern portion of this country that is pretty damn solid Republican and red, they're making it look just as solid blue and Democrat as New England and the Northeast, right? That's really tantamount to what's happening here.
Right. No, that's exactly right. In essence, Republicans are doing what Democrats have been doing for a long time. I mean, look at Massachusetts, where I think Donald Trump got close to 40% of the vote. There are 0 Republican congressional seats there because they completely gerrymandered the state. The Democrats did. So Republicans are just kind of playing catch up with that.
And for everyone who says the Republicans started this, you mentioned Massachusetts gerrymandered. I believe it was Massachusetts that had the very first gerrymandered district named after their governor, Governor Jerry, or Governor Gary, I guess is really his name. Yeah, that's hilarious. Real fast, I know that there's a lot of pressure on Governor Kemp of Georgia to redistrict that state. It's an important state in the South, and you know Georgia pretty well. He says that he can't do it because the election cycle has already begun. Is that the case, or could he suspend things and redraw, in your opinion?
No, I think what they could do is call a special session, and the legislature just has to do what Alabama is doing. Remember, Alabama's primary is supposed to be May 19th. So they not only have to redistrict, they have to suspend and move the primary to a later date. And I think the Georgia legislature could do the same thing. They could say, we're changing the date of the primary to later in the summer, August, even early September. So I'm not quite sure why he's hesitating to do that.
Yeah, I'm not either. And I'm sure our listeners in Atlanta are confused by it too. And I hope they keep the pressure on Governor Kemp. It always seems like Governor Kemp has one foot on the right side of a decision or an argument, and then he's always just sort of, tiptoeing into the dark side, the side that's like, oh no, we couldn't possibly do that. Be bold, Governor Kemp. Let's go. There's too much at stake. Listen, real fast, I'd love for you to dive in. We're going to keep Von Spakovsky for one more segment because there's more to get to. But this whole idea of who started it, I thought this was resolved. I thought everybody knew what really happened in Texas, and the fact that this wasn't just Texas deciding mid-cycle to start redistricting. But I saw Democrats on the talking shows over the weekend without any pushback from the host saying the same thing, that Republicans started it in Texas. Can you just give us quickly the origins of why Texas redrew the maps?
Because of a decision coming out of the Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals that had to do with the Voting Rights Act and that overturned a 30-year-old precedent. That's what led to this.
Yeah. And the map, my understanding is they tried to put the map through in 2020 at the proper time. It was the Biden Justice Department that blocked it, right? They were the ones that held this up for a few years.
Yeah, that's right. And remember, the whole Louisiana Calais decision everybody's complaining about, the reason that came to the Supreme Court was because of Democrats initiating a lawsuit to force a second district.
Yeah. All right. We're going to stick with Hans von Spakovsky. We want to get his analysis on the Comey indictment and some new news from Acting Attorney General Blanche about that indictment. Also, someone in New Jersey, a Democrat, was just arrested for doing the thing that I'm told never happens with falsifying voter registration. Hans will tell us about that too, and that amazing Kentucky Derby he saw firsthand. Keep it here. It's O'Connor and Company.
The secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most sought-after anti-aging products available today. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags in as little as 10 minutes. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects will last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results.
Look at this one under-eye bag. It's gone.
I've tried it all, and then I found Plexiderm, and this happened.
The best news, in this super inflated economy, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95 and free shipping. So don't wait. Just call the number on your screen.
Call 800-826-0172.
You're watching Salem News Channel across America.
Good morning. O'Connor and Company continues here on this Monday morning from your nation's capital. Larry O'Connor here with our legal analyst, Hans von Spakovsky, advancing American freedom. And Hans, we're going to get to your time at the Kentucky Derby in a minute because you did see a legendary race. They're already making movies about this. They're writing the screenplays, and I can't wait to see them. But real fast, it's still in the election law arena, which really is your wheelhouse and expertise. You've been writing some op-eds over at our site, PJ Media, part of the Town Hall Media family, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I have. I have special loyalty to PJ. They published some of my first op-eds many years ago.
There you go. We get only the best in the Town Hall Media family. I saw this story out in New Jersey. The New York Post wrote it up over the weekend, and I was very confused, Hans, because I was told that this never happens. This is the kind of thing that no one needs to worry about. It has to do with forging voter registrations. You know, the same voter registrations that the Save America Act would ensure allows only for U.S. citizens and people who can prove their citizenship to register to vote. Well, this guy, Henrylin Ibazim, former Democrat mayoral candidate in New Jersey, pled guilty. So he's already said, yeah, you betcha, I did it, I'm guilty. Pled guilty to forging about 1,000 voter registration applications during the 2021 Democratic primary. So Hans, make this make sense. I thought that this doesn't happen, that Republicans who want the Save America Act are just chasing their own tail. They're trying to divide this country. Forget about the fact that over 80% of Americans think this is a reasonable thing to ask. Hans, does this happen more than we hear about in the news?
Yes, and New Jersey and New York have a really bad history of this kind of thing. I mean, there have been multiple convictions in those states of people, including candidates and political party activists, for doing what? They register voters, sometimes fake registrations, other times of real people, but without telling those people they're registering them to vote. And then what do? They request absentee ballots in their names and fill them out and submit them. And look, about a decade ago in Troy, New York, there were actually convictions there, including of a political consultant. Who were they targeting? People in poor urban neighborhoods. And when they were asked, well, why did they go there? They said, well, these are the people who probably won't notice that we registered them to vote and voted in their name and were least likely to complain. So it's the urban poor, the constituents of Democrats really who are usually targeted by this.
They're targeted and exploited. That's what they're doing, and they're stealing their votes. And obviously that's why you would do it. There's no other reason to forge 1,000 applications and registrations to vote unless you plan on getting those ballots and then basically stuffing the ballot box. Now, extrapolate that to a state like Oregon or California, where they have automatic mail-in ballots. So you don't even have to request it for absentee. You're just going to automatically get a ballot for that election. It's like a slam dunk. Is that why those states continue to trend more Democrat? Because basically Democrats are gaming the system.
Yeah, I think so. And keep in mind that, you know, one of the only security measures they have, right, or security for absentee ballots is signature comparison. And what's going on right now? Democrats have filed lawsuits, I think in about half a dozen states, saying signature comparison should be gotten rid of because it's discriminatory. So they even want to get rid of that last security measure.
So not
for
even
mail-in ballot.
Not even photo ID. Not even. I mean, they've already got rid of photo ID. Now they don't even want you to be able to compare signatures. That's absolute insanity.
Right.
Hans, quickly, I'm going to get to Attorney General or Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. He said that this Comey indictment that was handed down by a grand jury in North Carolina actually is about a lot more than just the 8647 Instagram post. Do you know anything about that? Or do you have any hunch as to where this might be going?
Well, Blanche said they have witnesses and documents, but then he wouldn't say what they were. Well, I hope he's got a lot more than he's got, because look, I don't like the former head of the FBI. I think he abused his powers for partisan political reasons. But the indictment so far, what we've heard about it, I think it strays into First Amendment territory, and I don't think they really have a criminal case. So whatever other evidence he said would be key to them actually having a case with merit against him.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for that. So, Hans, finally, I was at the Virginia Gold Cup races this week, a guest of Daniel Turner from Power of the Future. We had a blast over there. And then I get this photo on my phone from you, Hans. Let's take a quick look at it if we can, if you're watching on Salem News Channel. You know, we hear this lilting, sugary, sweet Southern accent on you, Hans. We know you're a Southern gentleman, but there you are at the Kentucky Derby. How many mint juleps are you into by this point? You look like you're feeling no pain there at the Derby.
I'm not going to admit or deny how many mint juleps I have. They do come in special glasses. They come in special glasses, and we do now have a nice collection of those at our house.
Oh, so it's not your first. See, this is a bucket list thing for me, but you saw a legendary race. Did you have money on Golden Tempo?
I did not. My wife and I both lost, but the people we were there with, an old friend of mine, his wife, she picked the winner. And the odds that,
Phenomenal.
I mean, it was a come from behind. I don't know how much she won, but she did very well on that race.
Absolute bedlam, and the first woman trainer, and two brother jockeys finished first and second. This has Hollywood written all over it, and I cannot wait for it. What an incredible race. Golden Tempo from behind. Hans, great talking with you. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
More to come. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks.
At this hour on SNC.
A look at today's top stories.
Reporting on today's biggest political headlines and breaking news.
That's what you need to know at this hour.
On Salem News.
Listen up, America. We're about to lose the AI arms race, not because of code or chips, but power. AI runs on electricity, and we don't have enough of it. China gets this, building power nonstop while we shut ours down. For years, Democrats canceled pipelines, blocked drilling, and attacked fossil fuels, the very energy AI depends on. That's changing under President Trump, but the fight isn't over. No power means no AI, no progress, no edge. Get the free report now at oilfacts.com. Oilfacts.com. Powered by Prairie Operating Company.
Rolling through to hour two of O'Connor and Company this Monday morning from your nation's capital. Coming up in the next hour, an important conversation with an important woman about an important man. Mollie Hemingway, she's the editor-in-chief of The Federalist. She's a force of nature. You know her from her on-screen TV analysis on cable news. She's got a brand new book about Justice Samuel Alito. And we're going to break down who Alito is as a man and as a legendary historic jurist. That's coming up right after the headlines. And then at the bottom of this hour, we're going to talk to Sean Spicer. He's got a brand new book about Trump 2.0, the new Trump term, and whether he's a little jealous that he's not part of this one. Of course, legendarily, he was part of Trump 1.0. That's all coming up in our next hour. I'm Larry O'Connor. We'll see you in a moment, but first, the headlines.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us from the SNC World Headquarters in New York. I'm Deontay Maroney with the top stories we're following at this hour. The U.S. has launched Project Freedom to guide stranded ships through the Strait of Hormuz, setting up a new security zone and warning of mines in the waterway. Now, Iran says any foreign military presence will be targeted. The critical shipping route handles about 1/5 of the world's oil, and disruptions continue as ceasefire talks stall with no peace deal in sight. Police in Oklahoma say a shooting at a party near Arcadia Lake has sent at least a dozen people to area hospitals. Authorities received reports of gunfire around 9 p.m. at a gathering of young people. Now, victims are said to be in various conditions. The lake, just north of Oklahoma City, is a popular spot for recreation. 2 U.S. service members are missing in Morocco after a recreational hike following military exercises. Now, officials say the disappearance happened near a training area in the country's southwest. A large search and rescue effort is now underway, involving multiple countries, aircraft, and ground teams. The incident comes during African Lion, the U.S. military's largest exercise on the continent. Big changes have come to SNC Mornings. It's premiere week for O'Connor and Company. Join Larry O'Connor as he brings sharp analysis and trusted perspective to the stories shaping our nation. It's one part news, one part politics, with a ton of entertainment in between. Watch beginning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time here on Salem News Channel. For real-time updates, download the Salem News Channel app and follow us online at snc.tv. In New York, I'm Deontay Maroney.
At this hour on SNC.
A look at today's top stories.
Reporting on today's biggest political headlines and breaking news.
That's what you need to know at this hour.
On Salem News Channel.
Well, you know me. I believe in freedom, independence, and the values that built this country. Now, I'll be the first to say President Trump has taken the steps towards reviving our economy. But inflation, trade deficits, and global uncertainty are hitting hardworking Americans where it hurts. Here's the truth. I refuse to let these hidden forces decide my future. That's why I help protect my wealth with real assets, physical gold and silver. For generations, these metals have held value, no matter who's in office or what the markets do. To me, gold and silver mean independence, not just for today, but for tomorrow. If you want the peace of mind I found, it's time to take action. I've partnered with the #1 rated precious metals company, Goldco, and right now they're offering first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified accounts. Visit LaraLikesGold.com to learn how to help safeguard your savings the way I do. That's LaraLikesGold.com.
Scammers are stealing more money from older Americans than ever before. They're wiping out seniors' life savings, retirement accounts, and financial security. For older Americans and their families, the impact can be devastating. But we have the power to stop these criminals. AARP is fighting for bipartisan common sense solutions to protect older Americans' hard-earned money from scammers. Join us today.
Red, white, and bold. No filters, just loud and clear. Where heavy hitters come together. Live, coast to coast. Uncensored, unwavering, unstoppable. Salem News Channel. Across America. Politics, entertainment. This is O'Connor and Company.
Good morning from your nation's capital. This is O'Connor and Company. I'm Larry O'Connor, and I'm thrilled on our debut episode, first time ever, nationwide, coast to coast. One of my favorite guests, one of my, dare I say, heroes in the movement and in journalism, the one and only editor of The Federalist and author of the brand new seminal book on Justice Samuel Alito. It's Mollie Hemingway. Mollie, I am so honored that you joined us on our first show here, coast to coast, on our nationally syndicated show.
Well, Larry, I'm also thrilled to be here, and I have the benefit of knowing that you are this amazing host of my mornings in Washington, D.C., and I've always said that you are the best that is out there. So I love that more people are getting to hear you.
All right, the check's in the mail. Listen, if anyone wondered how critically important Samuel Alito has been for returning America back to its constitutional roots, this past week with the Voting Rights Act decision that he authored is the perfect example. And boy, what great timing for your New York Times best-selling book, Alito.
Yes, I really appreciate that was able to come out while I've begun talking about what a seminal figure Samuel Alito is. I think a lot of people know Justice Scalia, before he died in 2016, they knew about him. They love, and for very good reason, Justice Thomas, who's on the court and has been for a long time. But they don't know enough about Samuel Alito, who just delivers victory after victory, but he kind of does it in a quiet way. And so it seemed time for people to recognize that they have this giant on the court, and his decision that he authored in the Voting Rights Act case, that's so consequential, and it was long overdue, and he delivered a big majority.
There's something about his decisions that I really appreciate. He almost... He mimics the founders in that they talked about such big ideas, but they made it so plain. People now, 250 years later, can read exactly what the founders said and get it and understand it. And by the way, farmers, peasants, tradesmen at the time of our founding could also read those documents. Am I overstating the case? I feel like Alito's decisions are very plain spoken. They're not giant flourishes. He's not trying to impress anybody. He just makes sense.
Well, this is something a lot of people have noticed. Many of the justices who are on the court, they come from an academic background. They like to think in big theoretical or philosophical ways. For Samuel Alito, who was a federal judge before he became a Supreme Court for 15 years, he was a prosecutor. He worked in the Department of Justice. He thinks about how decisions affect people when it comes to implementing them. And I think that's why it has such an ability to be understood by people who are living their lives.
Well, that's an important insight into sort of his background and what sort of fueled his approach to this as a justice. What about in his background, even before he was a prosecutor and a judge? What did you learn in your research about the man?
Well, all four of his grandparents were immigrants, and his father was also an immigrant. They emphasized education as the way to better yourself in America. He gets into Princeton by strength of his brilliance. He goes to Yale Law School. While he's there, he realizes that a lot of the elites who go to these schools aren't actually that smart. And he also sees how elites are able to have these things happen that don't affect them. They can destroy cities with their policies and proposals, but they don't suffer from high crime rates, or they don't suffer what happens when people are trapped in poverty. So he cares more about, yes, how these elites do things that hurt the middle and lower classes and destroy communities. And that's something he's definitely carried with him as he continues to care about community, not just the law, but what's the law intended to do to create order so that human lives can flourish.
Everything you just said there about Justice Alito, I think, other than being a second-generation American with immigrant grandparents, I feel like you could say that about Clarence Thomas as well. Is there sort of a kindred spirit there in terms of sort of seeing and recognizing how decisions from the highest court affect real people?
Oh, absolutely. And you see that Washington, D.C. is full of people who think that they're important and they want important people to pay homage to them. Justice Thomas and Justice Alito are almost disdainful of power. They are the people who care more about the people working at the court than the, presidents or kings or senators. They like normal people, and they're interested in their lives.
Yeah. They also, by the way, if I may, they have something else in common. They both have really impressive wives. And Justice Alito's wife was dragged into the news by really radical opponents of the justice and people who were trying to undo the court. It was incredibly unfair. But do you talk about their personal relationship? Did you get to speak with Mrs. Alito at all?
Well, it's funny because as reserved and humble and shy even as Justice Alito is, his wife is sort of this force of nature. She's gregarious, she's fun-loving, and she loves flags. So the New York Times went after her because she flew an Appeal to Heaven flag. This is a Revolutionary War era flag created for George Washington.
Designed it for our Navy before we had a Navy. It's insane. It was a perfect flag.
The New York Times lied and said that it was an insurrectionist symbol, but she's always flying flags, and they tried to get Justice Alito to recuse himself from various cases involving Trump or J6 protesters on the grounds that his wife had flown these flags. Yeah. And he said, "My wife is fond of flying flags. I am not," which I think is just a perfect description of them. But it's also what you said about wives is important. I think everyone in Washington, D.C. should be vetted according to their wife. Like if they have a liberal wife, 9 times out of 10, they squish out. If they've got a solid wife, they got to go home to her and keep her happy. So I think it's a great vetting tool that we have at our disposal.
Let's talk about going squishy because, as a conservative in America, really since the Reagan era, I've seen many justices that we've had high hopes for who were, we were told. I remember Justice Souter during his nomination process, we were told that he was going to be the most draconian, fascist, authoritarian conservative, which I'd be okay with. But of course, he went another direction. That seems to be a pattern, whether you're an elected official or whether you're supposedly an originalist and you're supposed to, adjudicate the Constitution from the Supreme Court. Alito never even got tempted by that. Did they try to win him over and get him into the club?
Well, I think that's what the attacks on Alito and Thomas are all about. They want them to know that the moment you go with us, we'll ease up on these attacks on you and your wife and your children and anyone who knows or cares about you. But these two men are stalwarts, and it is difficult to screen for that. And I do worry we're not making men of that caliber anymore who can withstand that kind of pressure. But if the left is going to do political campaigns to undermine the integrity of the court, the right also needs to fight back against that. It's a horrific threat. Sometimes I think they go after Alito and Thomas mostly so that as a warning to other people, maybe the younger justices or people who are going to join the court. If you want to have a good life, you better rule the way we want you to rule instead of according to the rule of law and what the Constitution says, because we can make life miserable for you.
You're 100% right, and we see it all the time, and it certainly has huge consequences when it comes to the highest court in the land, but we also see it affecting elected officials who come to town with a certain agenda. I mean, Adam Kinzinger was a Tea Party Republican in 2010. Look what happened to him. And we also see it in our profession and people in the media who sort of follow that swan song of being at the cool kids table, right?
Larry, the saddest compliment I get is when people say, thank you for being consistent or thank you for not changing. And I think, why would I change? You know, this is why I came to Washington, D.C., was to affect change in a positive way. Why would I change? But they see so many people be tempted by power or by friendship or celebrity or whatever the thing is, money.
Yeah.
And they see people change what they thought were their deeply held principles. And it's very sad.
Obviously, if you're writing a book about Alito, you have to talk about the Dobbs decision. And I know you did a lot of research on the Dobbs decision. But first, obviously, who do you think leaked it? You've got to know. You've researched it.
I know who a lot of people think leaked it, but I don't know for sure who leaked it. And I'm not sure we'll ever know unless they identify themselves. But I do go into what happened with the leak, what happened with the investigation into the leak, which was just frankly not done well at all. The marshal got a late start to it. They didn't really understand how that opinion, who had access to it, where they had access to it. They didn't ask good questions. I mean, I'm in no way surprised that the marshal wasn't able to say who did it because they just didn't do a high quality investigation.
Do you think they wanted to? Do you think that the investigation was run that way because it was just a token, but they didn't really want to expose the truth?
I truly don't know whether it was incompetence or malice. It's hard to say, but they could have done a better job asking the kinds of questions that would get to the root of the issue. And they just asked people, did you leak it? And they all said no. And what they should have done was ask about their relationship with the reporters in question or the media outlet in question. They should have asked them detailed questions about when they didn't have access to their own draft of the Dobbs decision to find out if other people in their households or other people they knew were able to access it at that time. There's so many avenues you would go down if you truly wanted to find out, but they did not manage to get that done.
Mollie Hemingway, we've literally only scratched the surface on this. I really recommend this book. New York Times bestseller again. Mollie Hemingway, the seminal book on Justice Samuel Alito. You can get it now, and you should get it now. And then once you get it, get one for your friends and your family and your children. Mollie, so happy to have you here. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Larry.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags. And let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view. And now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Call the number on your screen.
Call 800-832-7865.
Well, you know me. I believe in freedom, independence, and the values that built this country. Now, I'll be the first to say President Trump has taken the steps towards reviving our economy. But inflation, trade deficits, and global uncertainty are hitting hardworking Americans where it hurts. Here's the truth. I refuse to let these hidden forces decide my future. That's why I help protect my wealth with real assets. Physical gold and silver. For generations, these metals have held value, no matter who's in office or what the markets do. To me, gold and silver mean independence, not just for today, but for tomorrow. If you want the peace of mind I found, it's time to take action. I've partnered with the #1 rated precious metals company, Goldco, and right now they're offering first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified accounts. Visit LauraLikesGold.com to learn how to help safeguard your savings the way I do. That's LauraLikesGold.com. Well, you know me. I believe in freedom, independence, and the values that built this country. Now, I'll be the first to say President Trump has taken the steps towards reviving our economy. But inflation, trade deficits, and global uncertainty are hitting hardworking Americans where it hurts. Here's the truth. I refuse to let these hidden forces decide my future. That's why I help protect my wealth with real assets, physical gold and silver. For generations, these metals have held value, no matter who's in office or what the markets do. To me, gold and silver mean independence, not just for today, but for tomorrow. If you want the peace of mind I found, it's time to take action. I've partnered with the #1 rated precious metals company, Goldco, and right now they're offering first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified accounts. Visit LauraLikesGold.com to learn how to help safeguard your savings the way I do. That's LauraLikesGold.com.
Seattle, Washington, home of your Super Bowl champions. Did they win the Super Bowl this year? Nobody cares, honestly, if it's not my team, the Detroit Lions, and my adopted team, the Washington Redskins. Yes, I know. I get mocked a lot for having multiple teams. Well, I've lived in a lot of places in this country. You try growing up in Detroit. You try growing up as a Lions fan. Well, I haven't even made it to a Super Bowl, let alone won a Super Bowl. They didn't even dream about going to the playoffs for a couple of decades. And yes, they're pretty awesome now. But people watching on Salem News Channel or wherever you're streaming us, you can see I've got a Redskins helmet back there. There it is, Redskins helmet. It's a present from my friend Tony Katz, great morning show host out of Indianapolis. Good morning, Larry O'Connor here on O'Connor and Company, and we show you Seattle, Washington for those of you watching the program because Seattle has sort of flown under the radar here with their version of Zohran Mamdani. Call her Mamdani in a skirt. She is also a socialist. She is Katie Wilson. Katie Wilson, that's just a good old all-American name. She just sounds like she eats apple pie and drives a Chevrolet and couldn't be further than the truth. She is, in fact, an avowed Marxist. She can't find enough taxes to raise in the city of Seattle. And, of course, where's that money going? It's certainly not going to cleaning up the streets and cleaning up the criminal vagrants who have tent cities and make life dangerous for the people of Seattle. And it's certainly not going in protecting the people of Seattle, Washington's Second Amendment rights so that they can defend themselves. And also, she has applied a lot of those taxes that she keeps raising to make life less safe for the residents of her city. I know you'd think that a mayor's first priority is to make sure, A, you don't have any potholes, and B, the trash is cleaned up, and C, let's make sure that people don't get shot at. But not Katie Wilson, not Zohran Mamdani in a skirt. Our friends on AM 1300, The Answer, they know better than anyone how bad this woman is and how bad it's been since she became mayor. In fact, it's gotten so bad that even the Washington Post, our Washington over here on the East Coast, the real Washington, they are calling her out as being too liberal, too leftist, too Marxist. Look at this headline from the Fox News channel, Fox Digital. Washington Post editorial board calls socialist mayor arrogant for dismissive attitude toward tax-worthy residents and business leaders. That's right. When the Washington Post editorial board is calling you out for being too radical, left-wing, and Marxist, maybe you got to check yourself. But this weekend, we had a video of her engaged in an interview with KOMO, local television station there in Seattle, that really takes the cake for how these arrogant Marxists believe they are above scrutiny and above anyone daring to ask about their management of city affairs. Take a look at this. And background here, the mayor was at a community event in the middle of the week last week, and shots were fired on that block at the building. And just so you know, it's a common occurrence in that neighborhood for shots to be fired. And recently, the mayor has removed surveillance cameras from that street because of privacy concerns. So now watch what happens when she's asked about that very shooting and her policy. Take a listen.
I wouldn't be an excellent reporter if I didn't ask you. It's been an eventful week, and I think people are concerned about you. How do you feel after Tuesday, after what happened, what transpired?
I'm doing great. You know, got a great team supporting me, and I'll just say, you know, we don't have any indication that that shooting was targeted or anything like that. So I think it's a reminder of how much work we have to do as a city on gun violence, but I'm doing fine.
And the last question would be related to that, you know, I talked to people in that neighborhood who said that, hold on, it's just one last question. People in that community who are concerned that there's been rising gun violence and that there should be more surveillance cameras and that kind of thing. That's obviously been an issue that you weighed in on. Does that change it? Does that change your perspective at all?
Let's keep it on. Yeah, let's keep it on the top of this.
But does that change your perspective at all on the issue of surveillance cameras based on what you went through on Tuesday?
So we, yeah.
Appreciate it, but let's keep it on topic. Okay. She's about to answer the question, though. Okay. I mean, it looks worse when you jump in like that.
I'm sorry. I simply said
it does look worse. Let me jump in here. I love the reporter. He's like, you know, you didn't do yourself any favors because now everybody has seen it. Everyone has heard it. Everyone's saying that her first answer is so narcissistic and so self-absorbed. Oh, thanks for asking about the shooting. I'm doing fine. I'm a little shaken, but you know, we're not sure if they were actually targeting me with those shots fired. And I do love it. Tells you what we have to do about gun violence in our city. So she makes it all about herself, right? But then the follow-up is, well, you know, the people who live there, who are dodging bullets all the time, they'd like you to do something about it. Nope, no more questions. Gotta get out of here. This is how Marxists are. They got a Marxist.
No safe spaces, no pulling punches. It's the Mike Gallagher Show.
Join us for a fast-paced, unpredictable, entertaining exploration of breaking news and what to make of it. The Mike Gallagher Show on Salem News Channel.
From the SNC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Clay Osterly. We're following a chance for some thunderstorms at the lower levels across much of the west today. We'll see some of that across California, Nevada, into Utah, all the way across the central plains there. Now, at higher terrain, we'll likely see some snow in the Sierra Nevadas, up in the Rockies as well. Enough to probably trigger some winter storm warnings up in the mountains, so we will see several inches of snowfall, and it could be heavy at times as well. Some rain for the northern plains and across Fargo into Duluth. We're also looking for a chance of a couple of isolated thunderstorms capable of producing some hail or some wind from Des Moines down to Springfield and over towards Columbus, Ohio, and that would be later on this afternoon. Chance of a couple of non-severe thunderstorms across the Northeast, and also if you're heading out to the beaches across South Florida today, look out for a spotty thunderstorm. I'm meteorologist Clay Osterly, Salem News Channel.
Watch weather updates through.
Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates.
If you want to defeat the narratives with the truth, our show is for you.
Every day, 1 to 3 Eastern, it's common sense for the American people. The Scott Jennings Show, only on Salem News Channel.
The secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most sought-after anti-aging products available today. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags in as little as 10 minutes. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects will last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results.
Look at this one under-eye bag. It's gone.
I've tried it all, and then I found Plexiderm, and this happened.
The best news, in this super inflated economy, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95 and free shipping. So don't wait. Just call the number on your screen.
Call 800-826-0172.
You're watching Salem News Channel across America.
O'Connor and Company here, 33 minutes after the hour. I'm Larry O'Connor, and our listeners on our flagship station, WMAL in Washington, D.C., know our next guest very well because he's always so positive and so supportive of me. He's always so nice. He's always so, he's like a, honestly, he's like a father to me in many respects. You know him, of course, as the spokesperson for the first Trump administration. He's the host of The Huddle every morning at 8:30 on multiple streaming platforms. And, of course, his incredible show every night at 6 p.m., The Sean Spicer Show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to bring you the one and the only Sean Spicer. Mr. Spicer.
Well, first of all, congratulations. I hate to start this way with a few corrections, but I think probably known a little outside the Washington area, number one. Number two, it's more like that smart, attractive older brother that you wish you've always had than a father. I mean, I get the role I play, mentee to mentor, like, but I mean,
Yeah.
Look, let's face it.
Well,
I mean,
you've had a hard life, Sean. You're from New England. You've had a hard life. You know, you're captain in the Navy. Lord knows you've seen a lot of action out there. So you age so rapidly that I think of you more like a father.
Yeah, although these days, apparently, if you're from New England, you're supposed to get a Nazi tattoo and create illusions as to why sexual assault for women, or is that just Graham Plattner's view of what the world looks like? So I don't know. I've got to go get my tattoo.
The all you Republicans and Trump is a Nazi kind of guys who are now embracing it. So, well, listen, you know, he's come a long way from that. But speaking of that, Sean is, in fact, an active duty member of the Navy Reserves and a captain. And thank you for your service, Sean. What do you make of this explanation from Democrats that, well, listen, yes, he's got a Nazi tattoo. Yes, he said horrible things. But after all, he was in the Marines. It's the culture there. How insulting is that?
Yeah. So since you invoked that, let me now do the actual disclosure. The views that I share are not those of the Department of Defense, Department of War, Department of Navy. They are mine and mine alone. I would just say, to be honest with you, obviously, having lived through 20 years, the last 20 years of Afghanistan and Iraq, I know a lot of shipmates that went over, a lot of folks in the other services. I've never seen anyone that came back and said, that's why I got a Nazi tattoo, and that's why I think that it's okay that women are responsible for their own sexual assault. Like it's a cop-out for him, for Graham Plattner, and then it's disgusting to see other Democrats like Chris Van Hollen who suddenly say, well, you know, he had PTSD. That's a real thing, and I hope that if that's true, that he gets whatever help he needs. But number one, it's not acceptable to then excuse those kinds of behaviors. Number two, it really does question, in my opinion, his fitness for service. Because if you're saying I currently have a judgment issue where I think it's okay that sexual assault of women is excusable, and that my judgment is such that I get Nazi tattoos because I didn't think, then you do have to wonder about their continued judgment and whether they'd be a good senator from Maine. But I do think there's a lot of service members that would find his statements offensive as to how he came to this. There's a lot of real issues that go on with PTSD from service, from dealing with trauma and conflict. But I think to turn around and I've never known anyone that went out and then said, well, I'm just going to get a Nazi tattoo because of it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And listen, we hope to rely on your wisdom, and I say this all the time, and we joke with each other, but I have incredible respect for you, and I know how much you admire me, Sean. Sean really does understand the electoral map and the political map around this country from not just his years in the Trump White House, his years at the RNC, his years on Capitol Hill working on campaigns. You're going to be our go-to analyst here for these midterms. I keep saying to people, there's two elements of these midterms that everyone needs to just hold their breath and wait for before they make predictions on what's going to happen. Number one, we still don't know what the map is going to look like and what those districts look like. But number two, let the Democrats find their nominees, because if they keep nominating people like this, that changes the equation for Republicans.
Yeah, or Abdullah El Sayed in Michigan, who's just nuts. Yeah. And frankly, actually, every one of the Democrats, Mike Rogers, former member of Congress from the 8th District, I used to call him Landslide because he won by 60 votes, served as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, former FBI agent. He's the Republican nominee while the Democrats fight it out. They have and that's a state that, frankly, they should have kept in their column on the Senate side. So real quick on the Senate, you got about 7 races in play. 3 of them they would need to pick up to take the majority. If you just look at what the states are, Alaska, Ohio, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, Maine, like the map isn't there for them. And this is what I think people need to be careful of, Larry, is there's such a crutch for lazy reporters who just say historically, da-da-da. I mean, that's like saying, generally speaking, on Mondays it rains. It's like, well, that's the most preposterous thing that you would ever, you wouldn't then pack for rain because it just randomly rains a lot on Mondays. You'd look at the weather forecast. Reporters are lazy. They don't look at that. So on the Senate, I think we're good. On the House side, again, to your point, we've got 30 seats. We got $450 million on the Republican side to about 80 on the Dem side. That's a lot of money on the ground in 30 districts that can be used for get out the vote efforts, door knocking, digital ads, all that kind of stuff that puts a candidate over the top. And you start, again, this is where the press is lazy. They look at the numbers as opposed to the candidates on both sides. So you take a district like in New York, Mike Lawler, the Republican, one of the hardest working guys I know. He is poised to keep that district. A bad Democrat is going to be the nominee. Lawler's hardworking, tenacious, really in touch with his own district. So you start going down and you realize, wow, that's not as easy as they perceive. And then to your point about the map, the voting rights decision that came down from the Supreme Court was delayed by the minority to limit the impact, but you're still going to see Louisiana pick up one. The state legislature in Alabama today is meeting to potentially pick up two. I think it'll end up at one. They've got to settle this case first that they have pending in the Supreme Court. And then South Carolina looks like a no because the Senate Majority Leader there won't act, but Marsha Blackburn and others are calling on the Tennessee governor to act. Florida, which was happening outside of the VRA, is going to be a +4. So when you're talking about a field of 30 and you look at these pluses and minuses, and also I've got my fingers crossed that here in Virginia, the Virginia Supreme Court overrules that ridiculous constitutional power grab by the Democrats. So again, when you look at numbers, it's not, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion by any stretch.
Agreed. And see what I mean, everyone. This is what Sean Spicer can do in about a minute and a half, sort of give you a synopsis of exactly what's going to happen in November, or at least where we're headed in November. It's going to be a hell of a midterm. Sean Spicer Show, as well as the Morning Huddle.
Oh, by the way,
Sean,
I don't know if your audience. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. I want to.
I was going to say, let's get to the business at hand. The real reason you're here is to sell some books. You've got your brand new book out, and it's a great title, great cover art. Great forward by a great president. The book is Trump 2.0, The Revolution That Will Permanently Transform America. The forward is by the man himself, President Donald J. Trump. And Sean, honestly, you're the only guy who can really, from a position of knowledge, influence, and firsthand experience, write this book. You were there for Trump 1.0, and now you're here observing Trump 2.0. Sort of in an overview, what is the key difference right now that you're observing?
Yeah, thanks for the shout out on the cover. When I showed the president, he said, wow, this looks really good. And I said, respectfully, sir, it's because it's you. He goes, that's a good point, Sean. So I mean,
he didn't say, no, the lighting and the contrast, the composition. And he said, that's it.
Well, we were we knew, look, we were smart enough. We talked to the staff and said, this is what we're thinking of the cover. They looked at it and said, he'll like this. So he has a good team around him that obviously, positioned it. So, but I got a kick out of it. He's like, I love the cover. And I'm like, it's your face. He's like, good point. Look, the existential point that I try to get at this book is why is Trump 2.0 different? What happened in those intervening years? And most people, Larry, are very, I think that watch your show and that have watched it for years, have a higher degree of political sense. Trump's the only the second president ever and the first one in modern history to have two terms that weren't back to back. So what happened in those 4 years? And I talk about the groundwork that was done between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0 and why that was significant, why the work that America First Policy Institute, that Heritage Foundation and Project 2025, America First Legal, Newt Gingrich's organization, why the work they did allowed Trump 2.0 to start really right out of the gate strong. And think about the difference just in the people that occupy key positions in Trump 2.0. Vastly different. And I told the president, this is not a knock in any way on Trump 1.0. Like, we started with a guy who was a businessman, a real estate mogul, a reality star that had never been in politics and had an audacious, ambitious agenda, and I think crushed it. This time, though, in hindsight, they had a chance to think about all those things that they could do differently, and they're crushing it because of them. No matter if you're the biggest Trump hater in the world, you have to acknowledge that what he's done on the border, NATO, national defense, education, MAHA, this is all like supercharged. Most presidents try to get a signature achievement. This president in 1 year has got like 9.
Yeah. And I don't think the president, looking back in hindsight at 1.0, really grasp. I don't think any of us grasp the extent that his opponents in Washington, D.C., many of them, sadly, Republicans in name, would go to try to undermine him and try to destroy him. And I just wonder how much of that do you go into? Because I know people's lives were ruined by those investigations. I know you yourself had to, represent yourself People don't realize the sacrifice that is made by people who work for the White House when the president is attacked the way he was under the Russian collusion hoax.
Yeah, just real quick backwards. I mean, I wasn't a target. I was just a witness. And I don't even want to give you a sense of what the legal bills were because they're quick. I mean, when you have a lawyer who needs a lawyer who needs a paralegal. So many, and the problem was is that people just would walk into your office and say, we're expected to do this. Trump 2.0 is so different because, and I do talk a lot about this, how we started and we thought we were doing the right things and we trusted people who we thought had the president's best interest at heart, that understood the president was elected by the American people to do a job. But we now know how many people stood in the way. And Larry, that's why Trump 2.0 is different. And by the way, for everyone who's listening right now, Larry and I are going to the Kennedy Center right before it closes May 15th. If you go to SeanSpicer.com, you can get a free ticket, and join us. So I'm excited to share the story of this and help you along as I do so often.
You are my mentor, father figure, aforementioned. And yes, we're so excited. But first of all, it's embarrassing to have to do this, but it's the Trump Kennedy Center that we're going to be appearing at, Sean. That would be the
That was a test, and I'm glad you passed. It was a test.
We'll have an expanded version of this conversation that we've just had, a full hour, one-on-one, yours truly and Sean Spicer talking about this new book. Yes, get your free ticket. And then also we have some VIP tickets. You can join us on the rooftop of the Trump Kennedy Center for a special VIP cocktail party. And that's sponsored by Town Hall. So all in the family here.
I'm
Sean.
excited.
Really
Thanks
excited
to the guys at Town Hall. And all of it, if you just go to SeanSpicer.com or to the Trump Kennedy website, either one, you get your tickets May 15th. We're excited to do this. And Larry, I'll be working with you. We're going to the mall to get outfits. There'll be matching.
Absolutely. Sean, good luck with the book and your career. I'm really proud of you. You're getting close to me. Well done. Thanks.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Call the number on your screen.
Call 800-832-7865. You're watching Salem News Channel across America.
Larry O'Connor and Company from your nation's capital. Following up on our top story this morning, by the way, there's some reports the IRGC over in Iran is claiming that they have fired on and hit an American warship. CENTCOM has now responded to that, saying fake news. CENTCOM says that this is made up and not true. The U.S. continues to enforce the naval blockade on Iranian ports, and there has been no activity there. So who are you going to believe? U.S. CENTCOM or the IRGC? Well, I'm sure Morning Joe will be believing the bad guys and our enemies, but that's what CENTCOM is saying right now. We'll continue to follow that story and many more this morning. But let's quick shift to ongoing concern and confusion almost over Marco Rubio's insistence on taking on job after job after job after job. Right now, he is our Secretary of State and doing a damn good job. He's also acting National Security Advisor, although he's been acting National Security Advisor for like 9 months. How long are you the acting National? It's weird to me. He's obviously doing a great job as National Security Advisor because this is a position that does not need Senate confirmation. Ambassador Mike Walls is now our ambassador to the United Nations, former congressman. He was National Security Advisor, and then he was moved to that position. President Trump hasn't seen need to replace him. He's got his acting NSA, and I guess Rubio's doing a great job. So we should probably just lose the acting part. He's also acting U.S. archivist, which is hilarious to me. He's the acting archivist for the United States of America. He's the acting administrator of USAID, because that was basically folded and put under the umbrella of the State Department. And there are many other jobs that people believe he should have or would take because, of course, there's a meme going on that shows him sitting on the couch of the Oval Office during the meeting with President Zelensky of Ukraine, looking kind of angry and perturbed. And you know these memes, they sort of dress him up in various costumes and outfits for the next job that he's going to have to take. Apparently, Secretary Rubio loves this kind of thing, and he's sort of owning it. Last week, when Caroline Leavitt went on her maternity leave to have her child, he barged into the press briefing room and pretended like he is now taking on the job as acting press secretary. He seems to be enjoying himself. And speaking of enjoying himself, he legit took on a job over the weekend. Apparently, this really is a hobby of his. He's an old school 90s DJ, and he literally took over the DJ duties at a wedding. That's right. He is now DJ Marco. Take a look at this. It went viral over the weekend. Hit the climax of the music. He's got the cans on, listening to the music through the earphones. But I do love the fact, by the way, that he's still dressed in his Secretary of State uniform. He's got the dark suit and the light blue tie, but apparently Secretary Rubio is a part-time hobbyist as a DJ, and he's cranking the tunes, and the weddings seem to enjoy it. So add that to the list of things that Marco Rubio can do. It's pretty impressive to be Secretary of State DJ Marco spinning I don't, do they even, I like the fact that they still play records, I guess, at these things, but there he is. There are the memes of him dressed as a drop the beat DJ. And for those of you who aren't watching the radio program, you can make sure you check this out at Salem News Channel so you can see everything that Marco did over the weekend. We'll also tweet it out on our accounts there on social media. Hey, while we've got you, we do want to hear from you all morning long, 855-784-4255. It's been a loaded show, but some of you want to jump in. And we'll start with Randy in Knoxville, Tennessee, listening in there in the volunteer state on the iHeart app. Hey, Randy, thanks for tuning in. I'm Larry O'Connor.
Hey, thanks, Larry. Nice to meet you. Enjoy the show. Looking forward to listening to it every morning. And May the 4th be with you.
That's right. Happy May the 4th day. When they told me today was going to be the go day for the new show, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm ready.
I think that it's a good idea for Trump and the Republicans, the speaker, all of us to say what Trump brought up is let's get rid of the IRS. Let's replace it with the old school that made us the big, powerful, wonderful country we are. Customs, tariffs, make sure they know it isn't going to cost you anything. It's the guys that import their junk into our country. And everybody hates the IRS. And that could help us to keep these lunatic Democrats from taking over the House.
Well, sounds like a true Tennessean because you already enjoy not paying state income tax. Randy, it sounds like you just want to get rid of all the income tax that you have to deal with completely across the board and make America Tennessee again. And I don't think that's a bad political message either. So there are a lot of advisors to the president, a lot of strong conservative voices who do get concerned about the impact on tariffs on the economy. But if you had to trade between income tax and tariffs, if they actually could replace the federal budget and the revenue side, well, I think that that's worth talking about. And I know Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, seems to be in that camp as well. But just for pure politics, you're right, Randy. Pure politics, make war on the IRS, severely cut taxes, or maybe even eliminate it, go to a flat tax in the meantime. That's political gold. Randy, thanks for tuning in. And hopefully Tennessee is going to redistrict soon for the midterms. I keep it here. There's more to come on O'Connor and Company. I'm Larry O'Connor.
At this hour on SNC.
A look at today's top stories.
Reporting on today's biggest political headlines and breaking news.
That's what you need to know at this hour.
On Salem News.
News, politics.
Well, Spirit Airlines is officially no more. Who's to blame? A lot of people are pointing fingers at the Biden administration, their Justice Department, and Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. You remember him? He was the Secretary of Transportation, apparently. Well, we're going to unpack this and give you all the details about how this bankruptcy could have been avoided. And we'll break out exactly who is to blame and what happens next. Plus, Scott Jennings is going to join us. Jim Acosta wants him fired from CNN. You'll hear his response right here on this program coming up in the next hour. We'll get to all of that. But first, here's your headlines. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
Good morning and thanks for joining us from the SNC World Headquarters in New York. I'm Deontay Maroney with the top stories we're following at this hour. We're learning new details this morning about the attack at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Federal prosecutors say the Secret Service agent was hit by a buckshot from the suspect accused of trying to storm the dinner. Now, officials say the shot struck the agent's bullet-resistant vest during that April 25th incident at a Washington hotel. The suspect was injured but not shot, and the agent survived. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani is hospitalized in critical but stable condition. A spokesperson says the 81-year-old was admitted for an unknown issue and is asking for prayers. Giuliani, once known as America's mayor after the 9/11 attacks, later became a controversial figure as an advisor to President Donald Trump. President Trump says a new batch of UFO files will be released very soon, promising they will be very interesting. The directive comes after the Pentagon continues a years-long effort ordered by Congress to declassify records on mysterious aircraft. Some lawmakers say more transparency is needed around sightings near U.S. military bases. Big changes have come to SNC Mornings. It's premiere week for O'Connor and Company. Join Larry O'Connor as he brings sharp analysis and trusted perspective to the stories shaping our nation. It's one part news, one part politics, with a ton of entertainment in between. Watch beginning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time here on Salem News Channel. For real-time updates, download the Salem News Channel app and follow us online at snc.tv. In New York, I'm Deontay Maroney.
At This Hour News, brought to you in part by ReliefFactor.com. Feel the difference.
Listen up, America. We're about to lose the AI arms race, not because of code or chips, but power. AI runs on electricity, and we don't have enough of it. China gets this, building power nonstop while we shut ours down. For years, Democrats canceled pipelines, blocked drilling, and attacked fossil fuels, the very energy AI depends on. That's changing under President Trump, but the fight isn't over. No power means no AI, no progress, no edge. Get the free report now at oilfacts.com. Oilfacts.com, powered by Prairie Operating Company. Listen up, America. We're about to lose the AI arms race, not because of code or chips, but power. AI runs on electricity, and we don't have enough of it. China gets this, building power nonstop while we shut ours down. For years, Democrats canceled pipelines, blocked drilling, and attacked fossil fuels, the very energy AI depends on. That's changing under President Trump, but the fight isn't over. No power means no AI, no progress, no edge. Get the free report now at oilfacts.com. Oilfacts.com, powered by Prairie Operating Company.
Red, white, and bold. No filters, just loud and clear. Where heavy hitters come together. Live, coast to coast. Uncensored, unwavering, unstoppable. Salem News Channel. Across America. Politics, entertainment. This is O'Connor and Company.
6 minutes after the hour from your nation's capital, it's O'Connor and Company. Good morning. I'm Larry O'Connor, and for, well, many years now, about to start our 15th year in Washington, D.C., the WMAL audience, that's the greater Washington area, D.C., Maryland, Northern Virginia. I've had the privilege and honor to have a daily conversation, mostly in the mornings, certainly for the last 6 years, and for my first 5 years here in Washington. Then for a few years, I was riding shotgun with everyone driving home in the afternoon drive slot, but mornings have been my home most of my radio career. And starting today, on May the 4th, 2026, we're expanding that conversation. So all my friends in Washington on WMAL, our flagship station, we've got company. We're now heard across the Salem radio network. That's about 150 or so and growing radio stations all across the country, many live during 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. out there on the West Coast. Some people listen to us after the fact, and a lot of people up and down the Eastern Seaboard and in the Midwest listening live right now. And so I appreciate everyone joining us from across the country. And I've gotten a lot of notes from people in Washington, and they all seem to have the same question. Hey, great job, Larry. Really excited that you're national, but what about Patrice? What about Bethany? What about Cassie? What about all the great co-hosts? It's true. For the last several years, we've had a rotating crew of co-hosts who have joined me each morning. Julie Gunlock, who suffered a health incident earlier this year, was our co-host for quite some time, Monday through Wednesday, but she's in recovery right now from that health incident. I just want everyone to know that all of those ladies who join me on a regular basis as co-hosts, they're all welcome back, and we're going to have them back. In fact, Patrice is already booked for this upcoming Friday, and all of them will be part of our team here. It is O'Connor and Company. That reflects the cavalcade of guests that we have here, booked by my longtime collaborator and executive producer, Heather Hunter, who continues on this program for its new national footing, and all of the ladies, including Bethany and Cassie Smedley and Beverly Hallberg and Carrie Lucas. And yes, when Julie is back and ready to go, I can't wait to have her back on this program too. They're still part of this program. They're still part of O'Connor and Company, and I can't wait to have them back. So stay tuned. Your regular team of morning co-hosts are going to be part of this program in one capacity or another, and I can't wait to have them back. But thank you. Thank you, everybody in Washington, D.C., for supporting this show and supporting me in particular. And we're thrilled that we can share our morning conversation that we've had all these years here in Washington with the rest of the country. Thank you to everybody at WMAL for making this happen. It truly was quite a feat to get everybody on the same page. And, of course, thank you to our new home with Salem as well. All right, let's get on with the news here. Pete Buttigieg used to be the Secretary of Transportation. And as far as I know, his biggest contribution to the transportation infrastructure was pretending that he rode a bike to work every day. Remember that? In his first couple of months, he would drive a chauffeured security giant SUV that got about 8 miles to a gallon in Washington, and then it would drop him off about 5 blocks from the Department of Transportation. He'd get out, take a bike from the back of the SUV, put on a little dorky-looking helmet, and then ride the rest of the way, just so that they could make video of him for his Instagram account. I wish I were making it up, but that's what he did. His other contribution was to say that certain bridges and overpasses in major American cities were racist, and he oversaw a huge chunk of tens of billions of dollars that got allocated to the Department of Transportation so that he could build electric chargers all across the country for all those electric vehicles you were going to buy, which you didn't, so that they could get charged, which you couldn't, because at the end of the day, all those tens of billions of dollars basically produced, I think, 7 chargers. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, in the free market, private industry corporation. He already had a network of electric chargers for his electric vehicle, the Tesla, which you did want to buy and you continue to buy as it's the #1 domestically made automobile in America and continues to have the highest favorability and loyalty from Tesla owners. By the way, full disclosure, I include myself as one of them. I own a Tesla. I own 2, in fact. And not because I'm trying to save the planet, not because I believe in climate change and global warming. In fact, when I come home from driving my electric vehicle, I actually go in the backyard and I take an old tire and I set it on fire, releasing as many carbon emissions as I can into the environment. That's my carbon offset that I like to do. Okay, that's not true. That's just hyperbolic, but you get the point. I didn't buy a Tesla because I'm trying to save the planet, because I don't think buying a different car has anything to do with so-called global warming. I bought it because it's a really well-engineered car and it's great to drive. But that's the point, you see, under Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden and the Democrat Marxist left. They want to force you to make a decision against your will. So they spend a ton of money subsidizing electric vehicles that weren't as well engineered and basically only made money because they were subsidized by the federal government. And lo and behold, now you've got major automobile manufacturers like Ford and GM starting to scale back their EV manufacturing because, well, the money's not there anymore. Because the Department of Transportation and Energy and other departments under Joe Biden's watch, when your inflation was sky high, they're no longer paying to make a car that nobody wants. It's amazing what happens when Marxists are in charge. So let's get back to Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, because over the weekend, something major happened. Spirit Airlines officially ceased operations. Now, this leaves a lot of travelers stranded. This leaves a lot of travelers wondering, #1, what are they going to do with the tickets they've already purchased? But #2, will there be a low-cost, cheap fare airline for me to use if I want to travel somewhere with a no-frills package that Spirit offers? Now, frankly, I was never a fan of the idea of Spirit Airlines. I never flew it. I did book my kids one time on Spirit Airlines because I wanted to get them the cheapest fare to fly out to visit me in Washington, and they didn't care. I said, hey, do you guys mind flying Spirit? And they said, no, we're good. It wasn't a great experience. I don't want to offend Spirit Airlines, but let's face it, they're out of business now, so I don't care. The point is, some people love Spirit Airlines. Some people said, yeah, no frills is great. I don't care. I'll get on board with a shopping bag as long as it gets me to where I need to go. The problem is they had huge financial problems, and we knew this was happening several years ago, and Spirit and JetBlue at the time worked out a mutually agreeable merger. It wasn't a hostile takeover. It wasn't any sort of, corporate greed mechanism that was going to cripple the industry. No, it made a lot of sense. Not too dissimilar than when American Airlines and U.S. Airways merged. Those were giant behemoth airlines that merged back then. And somehow the federal government saw fit through the Justice Department, the Security Exchange Commission, the Transportation Department. They figured out how to make it work because it was the best thing for American travelers. Enter the Biden administration and Pete Buttigieg and Marxists in the Senate like Elizabeth Warren. They blocked that merger, and they were celebrated across the board. Blocking that merger from JetBlue and Spirit Airlines ended up being the death knell, the death sentence for Spirit Airlines. That's why we are here where we are today. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent was asked about this over the weekend, and here's what he had to say.
The Democrats did not want Spirit to merge with JetBlue a year ago, and now we see that Spirit Airlines closed operations. The Treasury was supposed to be doing a deal to save this company. Can you tell us what happened?
Sure, Maria. So this is just more of the mess we inherited from the Biden administration. In September 2022, Elizabeth Warren, who loves to write letters, sent a letter to the Justice Department, to the Transport Department, saying that they should oppose the merger with Spirit Airlines. JetBlue wanted to buy them for $3.8.
Yeah, amen. 100% accurate. That's exactly what Senator Warren did. And she tweeted out at the time, and boy, is it coming back to bite her now. She tweeted out that she opposed this merger. Here's what she said. I've warned for months that a JetBlue Spirit Airlines merger would have led to fewer flights and fewer fares. The Justice Department and Department of Transportation were right to stand up for consumers and fight against runaway airline consolidation. This is a Biden win for flyers. Well, how's that Biden win looking now? You worried about fewer trips and fewer options for passengers and consumers? Now, Spirit Airlines is dead in the water. So it's me. No genius, but I think if one of those airlines completely ceases to operate, that means fewer options and fewer choices. Indeed, at the time, Senator Chris Murphy, he loved this idea, and he put a lengthy video out for social media. Here's a little bit of it.
So this week, at the request of the Biden administration, a federal judge blocked a big airline merger between two airlines you've heard of, JetBlue and Spirit. I want to tell you why this is really important for consumers, but also for
really important. He goes on to say how great it is and how wonderful it is, and you should be grateful that this merger was blocked. And of course, again, here we are today, just a year and a half later, and that merger means, the blocking of the merger means Spirit Airlines is no more. This is what happens when the government intrudes and gets in the way of what free market does better than anyone else. And these Democrats, they won't apologize for a damn thing.
The secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most sought-after anti-aging products available today. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags in as little as 10 minutes. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects will last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results.
Look at this one under-eye bag. It's gone.
I've tried it all, and then I found Plexiderm, and this happened.
The best news, in this super inflated economy, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95 and free shipping. So don't wait. Just call the number on your screen.
Call 800-826-0172.
Well, you know me. I believe in freedom, independence, and the values that built this country. Now, I'll be the first to say President Trump has taken the steps towards reviving our economy. But inflation, trade deficits, and global uncertainty are hitting hardworking Americans where it hurts. Here's the truth. I refuse to let these hidden forces decide my future. That's why I help protect my wealth with real assets, physical gold and silver. For generations, these metals have held value, no matter who's in office or what the markets do. To me, gold and silver mean independence, not just for today, but for tomorrow. If you want the peace of mind I found, it's time to take action. I've partnered with the #1 rated precious metals company, Goldco, and right now they're offering first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified accounts. Visit LaraLikesGold.com to learn how to help safeguard your savings the way I do. That's LaraLikesGold.com.
Scammers are stealing more money from older Americans than ever before. They're wiping out seniors' life savings, retirement accounts, and financial security. For older Americans and their families, the impact can be devastating. But we have the power to stop these criminals. AARP is fighting for bipartisan common sense solutions to protect older Americans' hard-earned money from scammers. Join us today.
Well, you know me. I believe in freedom, independence, and the values that built this country. Now, I'll be the first to say President Trump has taken the steps towards reviving our economy. But inflation, trade deficits, and global uncertainty are hitting hardworking Americans where it hurts. Here's the truth. I refuse to let these hidden forces decide my future. That's why I help protect my wealth with real assets, physical gold and silver. For generations, these metals have held value, no matter who's in office or what the markets do. To me, gold and silver mean independence, not just for today, but for tomorrow. If you want the peace of mind I found, it's time to take action. I've partnered with the #1 rated precious metals company, Goldco, and right now they're offering first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified accounts. Visit LaraLikesGold.com to learn how to help safeguard your savings the way I do. That's LaraLikesGold.com.
Scammers are stealing more money from older Americans than ever before. They're wiping out seniors' life savings, retirement accounts, and financial security. For older Americans and their families, the impact can be devastating. But we have the power to stop these criminals. AARP is fighting for bipartisan common sense solutions to protect older Americans' hard-earned money from scammers. Join us today.
Good morning, Larry O'Connor here on O'Connor and Company. Coming up, we've got Scott Jennings joining us. He is absolutely a rising star in the conservative commentariat. And by the way, speaking of Scott Jennings, if you'd like, you could vacation with Scott Jennings. That's right. You can go on a cruise in the Gulf of America this November. We're going to give you more details on it. But Scott Jennings and Mike Gallagher and the one and only Kurt Schlichter will be joining me on a cruise this November on the Gulf of America cruise. It's going to be pretty awesome. And you can go to larrycruise.com. We're going to have a lot of events on the ship. You can do Q&As with us. We'll do stage shows. We'll have back and forth camaraderie. And the cool thing about this vacation, by the way, at larrycruise.com, is that, when you're on the ship, if you want to talk politics, you want to talk your love for America as we celebrate America 250 from the Gulf of America, you want to talk about the midterms that just happened because this will be a week after the midterms. Well, you can do that without looking over your shoulder and wondering if some crazy leftist with blue hair and a nose ring is going to, come down at you and start yelling at you, because everyone on the ship with us are like-minded individuals. I mean, we're in a little club there. It's called an American-loving patriotic club. So it's kind of cool to vacation with like-minded individuals, including me and Scott Jennings and Kurt Schlichter and Mike Gallagher. Oh, and Jennifer Horn, also host from our AM 870 KRLA out in Los Angeles. It's going to be awesome. So hopefully you can join us. Go to larrycruise.com. larrycruise.com. Oh, speaking of cruising, Pete Buttigieg, we just talked about him when he was in charge of the Department of Transportation. And he did his own victory lap on Spirit Airlines back in the day when speaking of that, there's gaslighting going on right here. I saw this from Democrats and Democrat apologists and liberal commentators over the weekend saying the Department of Transportation and the Biden administration didn't block the merger between Spirit Airlines and JetBlue. It was a judge. It was a court that blocked it. The Biden administration literally sued. It wouldn't have even been in front of a judge unless Merrick Garland and Biden's Justice Department, along with the Department of Transportation, actually sued to block the merger. So don't stand there and say, well, the judge just stepped in. The judge would have never known about it if the Biden team hadn't stopped it. And yes, he was celebrating that back in the day. Americans deserve robust competition and affordable airfares, so the Department of Transportation supports the Justice Department's antitrust lawsuit. Yeah, but again, robust competition, well, it's so robust that it ends up sending one of the airlines into bankruptcy. It doesn't exist anymore. So what have you really done here? But it's not stopping Pete Buttigieg from thinking he can be president of the United States. Now, you remember he ran back in 2020, and he was doing okay until Barack Obama and his minions decided that they were going to fix the game for Joe Biden. And then he became Joe Biden's Secretary of Transportation. The rest is history. Now he wants to run again, and he's doing town halls all over the place. He's actually polling literally at zero right now with African-American voters in the Democrat primaries, but that doesn't stop him from thinking he can be president. So take a listen to this. Here he was in Oklahoma at this town hall talking about our democracy, which of course is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic that uses democracy to choose our representatives. But that doesn't matter. Here's Pete Buttigieg being a moron.
But one thing that would make a huge difference is if we selected our president by letting the person who got the most votes actually take the office instead of the National Electoral College. It would be a really good idea.
Yeah, great idea. Oh, it's really, and listen, he used to be sort of like that very nice gay nephew that you all have, who or the gay neighbor of your friend who lives down the street, and their son ended up being gay. But he's such a nice guy, and he always helps around at Thanksgiving. He always, joins in the kitchen and helps make the food and everything. Now he's sort of warped that image into becoming a real smartass, if I may say. He just comes across as a snot-nosed little smartass, and that line, it gets such applause, but. People spent the time over the weekend reminding the secretary that Donald Trump did get the most votes in the last election in the popular vote over Kamala Harris, the woman who wouldn't pick Pete Buttigieg to be her running mate because he's gay. But secondarily, and more importantly, the reason we have an electoral college is so the people in the most populous cities like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Chicago can't decide for the rest of the country who our president is. Oh, and by the way, those cities in particular and the states they're in, known for their corruption in their election system. So when they say things like that, you know what it's really about, and it's not democracy.
No safe spaces, no pulling punches. It's the Mike Gallagher Show.
Join us for a fast-paced, unpredictable, entertaining exploration of breaking news and what to make of it. The Mike Gallagher Show on Salem News Channel.
From the SNC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Clay Osterly. We're following a chance for some thunderstorms at the lower levels across much of the west today. We'll see some of that across California, Nevada, into Utah, all the way across the central plains there. Now, at higher terrain, we'll likely see some snow in the Sierra Nevadas, up in the Rockies as well. Enough to probably trigger some winter storm warnings up in the mountains, so we will see several inches of snowfall, and it could be heavy at times as well. Some rain for the northern plains and across Fargo into Duluth. We're also looking for a chance of a couple of isolated thunderstorms capable of producing some hail or some wind from Des Moines down to Springfield and over towards Columbus, Ohio, and that would be later on this afternoon. Chance of a couple of non-severe thunderstorms across the Northeast, and also if you're heading out to the beaches across South Florida today, look out for a spotty thunderstorm. I'm meteorologist Clay Osterly, Salem News Channel.
Watch weather updates through.
Don't get left out in the rain. Get an accurate and personalized weather consultation for any event by scheduling a call with Storm Guides. Go to stormguides.live and schedule your call today. Storm Guides, the calm in the storm.
You're watching Salem News Channel across America.
Well, you know me. I believe in freedom, independence, and the values that built this country. Now, I'll be the first to say President Trump has taken the steps towards reviving our economy. But inflation, trade deficits, and global uncertainty are hitting hardworking Americans where it hurts. Here's the truth. I refuse to let these hidden forces decide my future. That's why I help protect my wealth with real assets, physical gold and silver. For generations, these metals have held value, no matter who's in office or what the markets do. To me, gold and silver mean independence, not just for today, but for tomorrow. If you want the peace of mind I found, it's time to take action. I've partnered with the #1 rated precious metals company, Goldco, and right now they're offering first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified accounts. Visit lauralikesgold.com to learn how to help safeguard your savings the way I do. That's lauralikesgold.com.
right here is confidence in a bottle.
It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags. And let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view. And now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Call the number on your screen.
Call 800-832-7865.
Kansas City, Missouri looks fantastic this morning. Good morning, Kansas City. Of course, that's where my predecessor, the great Chris DeGaulle, and my best friend, he was the best man at my wedding, literally, about 10 and a half years ago. Chris DeGaulle now running for Congress, and I'm honored to pick up the microphone here on our first day nationally on the Connor and Company. And I'm also thrilled to be joined by my new colleague, Scott Jennings, who does afternoons on Salem. And of course, you know him as a contributor at CNN and author of the best-selling book, A Revolution of Common Sense, because it is funny, Scott Jennings, when we put forth some common sense ideas, you know, like you should prove that you're a citizen before you register, or maybe we shouldn't have men in young girls' locker rooms in high school, that suddenly that's a radical position. It really is just common sense. So it's great to talk to you as always, Scott.
Good to talk to you, Larry. That's crazy talk where I work over at CNN. That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
That'll get you in trouble over there.
Speaking of the crazies at CNN, I want to talk to you about what happened last week and how Jim Acosta is now calling for you to get fired, which is pretty ironic. All these former CNN employees now calling for you to join them on the ranks of the unemployment line. But first, I understand you're actually in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is sort of ground zero for some redistricting, thanks to last week's Supreme Court decision. What's happening in Baton Rouge right now?
Yeah, thanks. I am here at the state capitol in Louisiana. I had planned to be here for an event, which I did last night, and I'm going to host my show this afternoon on Salem from the state capitol. I'm a guest here of the governor, Jeff Landry. We'll be using his press office, and I'm going to be interviewing Michael Echols, who's the House Majority Floor Leader. And what's going on in Louisiana, of course, the case that went to the Supreme Court that changed the Voting Rights Act situation for map drawing purposes emanated from Louisiana. So basically, Louisiana's map is now unconstitutional. They are going to begin the process of changing that here shortly. And there are 6 congressional seats here. It's currently 4-2 Republican. And some people want to take it to 6-0. Some people want to take it to 5-1. And I'm going to interview Mr. Echols about how that's going to shake out. Interestingly, he has been himself a candidate for Congress under the old maps, and the governor has postponed the House election. So it's a little strange here. They were going to have a primary here in Louisiana for the House, but the governor has postponed that so they can draw the maps. It will now most likely go back to a November open primary. The Senate race in Louisiana is going to stay. Senator Bill Cassidy is the incumbent. He's facing 2 challengers. He's in a lot of trouble here politically. So voters in Louisiana in a closed primary will vote for Senate in a couple of weeks. Most likely they'll vote in an open primary for the new House map in November.
And that primary is interesting. President Trump has endorsed one of the Republicans in that race. And a lot of people believe that because it's so divided, it's going to be competitive. They're saying the same thing about Texas right now with Paxton and Senator Cornyn, excuse me, that it's dividing the Republican base, and that's going to allow a Democrat to sneak in and steal it. What's your analysis there? Do you think is Texas really going to go blue? Is Louisiana going to go blue because we're having a challenging primary?
No, I don't think so. Whoever comes out of the Republican primary and runoff situation, I think will be the next senator from Louisiana. Who's going to make the runoff? You know, you've got Julia Letlow, who's a congresswoman who has Trump's endorsement. You have John Fleming, who's the state treasurer, former congressman, who's well-liked in the state and also has been a Trump ally. And then you have the incumbent Cassidy. You have to get to 50% in order to avoid a runoff. You know, it's kind of a third, and we'll see which 2 make the runoff. My general view is that Cassidy is in really rough shape and is highly unlikely to be reelected. But will a Republican hold the seat in Louisiana? Absolutely.
Scott Jennings, by the way, has forgotten more about Kentucky politics than most people know. And I am curious, I haven't seen much talk about Kentucky and how this Supreme Court decision affects the districts there. What's your analysis now on how Kentucky is going to shake out?
So Kentucky's districts, we have 6 congressmen in Kentucky. It's currently 5-1. There was some thought earlier this cycle that Kentucky might try to redraw and go to 6-0. And there was some resistance to that in the Kentucky legislature, even before this Matt ruling. I don't think they're going to do it for this cycle. It doesn't feel like it. Their legislative session just ended. They have a Democrat governor who obviously wouldn't want to call them into session to get rid of the only Democrat in Congress. Could they do it? Yes. And I'm sure there'll be some people who want to look at that for 2028. But I think Kentucky's going to stand pat. The big Kentucky political news from Friday night, other than everybody gathering for the Kentucky Derby this weekend, was that President Trump waded into the Kentucky Senate primary to, there's Republicans running to replace Mitch McConnell, who's retiring. And Trump has been rather silent on this. And he endorsed Congressman Andy Barr, who represents Lexington. And he engineered getting this other guy, Nate Morris, out of the race. And so now it's Andy Barr and Daniel Cameron, the former attorney general, who are left in the race. Trump is with Barr. And today we've seen Senator John Thune and Senator Tim Scott, head of the NRSC, endorse Andy Barr. So the party, as directed by Trump, is moving to get behind Andy Barr. The primary there is in 2 weeks.
Amazing. And thank you for that insight. That's right. I saw that endorsement. It was really interesting, by the way, when the president announced it, first teased it out and said he's going to make a great ambassador, but he didn't say what he would be ambassador. Well, we'll find something for him, but he'll be an ambassador. That's pretty hardcore politics right there.
Yeah, Morris was languishing, to be honest. He never really caught on. He ran a fairly, sometimes when you're a first-time candidate and people don't really know you and you spend all your time attacking everybody else, you got to build up a little credibility at first before they'll believe your attacks on others. But at any rate, Trump finally sorted it out. And I think Andy Barr is going to be a great senator. Now, the Democrats do have a primary. They will put up a candidate, but highly likely here that this seat is a likely Republican seat in the fall. And you'd hope the party wouldn't have to spend much resources to hang on to it.
You'd think Kentucky is a pretty solid red state, and certainly the way they vote for federal government, it is unnerving that they sometimes, flirt with the idea of having a Democrat governor.
We do have a Democrat governor now named Andy Bashir. His father was also governor.
Yeah.
And, Kentucky.
And he thinks he can be president.
The movement. Yeah. And it's interesting. We have off-year gubernatorial elections. So Kentucky will elect a governor in 2027. That does change the turnout matrix somewhat. You get a much, much lower turnout, different kinds of voters. I've often wondered if Kentucky elected its governor, say, on the same cycle as presidential, that would have probably benefited the party. I mean, frankly, we've elected 2 Republican governors during my career, one in 2003 and one in 2015. And in both cases, they had sort of tumultuous first terms, and the voters just decided they didn't like them. And so, one of the things that you have to do is when you win elections, you have to do good, and good policy and good operations make good politics. Republicans failed at that on a couple of occasions, and Democrats were able to take advantage of it. I think next year, the next governor of Kentucky is somebody well known to your audience, and that is Jamie Comer. He's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. He's congressman from Kentucky's 1st district. He's on Fox and all the conservative channels, 24 hours a day. My instinct is he is highly likely to be the next governor of Kentucky.
Yeah, we've had Chairman Comer on the program quite a bit. And of course, the Oversight Committee has a whole lot of say in what happens in the District of Columbia, our flagship station, WMAL. So he will make a good governor. And you're right, you should win that going away. That'd be great. Listen, one other thing that I want to ask you about here, and has to do with how the military efforts in the Middle East might affect these midterms going in. You saw the president very wisely announced a conclusion to Operation Epic Fury. That keeps him clean on the War Powers Act. Congress can't come in and say, hey, you need to come to us for permission. We're now in a new phase here, as he put it, a humanitarian aid assignment, so that we're going to escort these ships through the Strait of Hormuz with our Navy vessels. And then if they get fired upon and if they have to engage militarily, well, then the clock starts ticking again with a new military operation, 60 days. How do you think this is going to affect the election at this point? It seems we saw it earlier. 75% of Americans think we are winning this military engagement, and in the long run, this is going to be a good thing, not just for us but for the world.
I think Americans know we're winning. I do think people look up at the gas station sign, and it hurts. I mean, look, it'd be folly to ignore it. So if there's high gas prices, $4 or $5 gas prices on election day, that's a bad thing for the president and the president's party. But look what the reality is. The naval blockade has effectively evaporated the Iranian economy. We've destroyed their currency. At some point, my suspicion is China's going to come along and say, okay, guys, we got to get back to business here. We need our oil. And then all of a sudden, you get it to a place where you get a resolution. My view on this is however you felt about the choice to go into it, which I supported, some people didn't, but we're in it now. And so now that you're in it, how do you get out of it? And in my view, the only way to get out of it is complete and total victory. And what is complete and total victory? They cannot have a nuclear weapon. The president has said this over and over and over again. I still hear Democrats say they're confused about the mission. We're not going to let these butchers have nuclear weapons with which to kill us. It's a pretty good mission, and I think the American people support it. And so if you exit this because of a naval blockade and a negotiated settlement without them having a nuclear weapon, that's a win. And then gas prices will come down, and the American people will say, this was a good thing.
So you got into it on the program Abby Phillips hosted. It's Newsnight, CNN Newsnight last week. And, of course, a moment went viral where, it's funny, Scott, I hear all the time. We play a lot of your clips on my town hall show that I stream live every day at noon. And everybody says, how does Scott keep his cool? How does he stay so cool and collected and smile and just deal with it when these guys it's always 4 against 1. And what happened was they sat you right next to a guy who was looking for a viral moment. And there are certain rules on these panel shows. You don't infringe on people's personal space. And he was actively infringing on your personal space, acting, frankly, kind of like a smartass. And you had it. And you turned to the moderator and said, do something about this. I'm not going to take it. First of all, if you want to reflect on that moment, go for it. But I think it's actually more interesting that suddenly everybody wants you to get fired for that moment. How do you respond to them, like Jim Acosta and Keith Olbermann?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's not the first time Jim Acosta and Keith Olbermann said I should be murdered one day. So now he only says I should be fired. So I guess I'm moving in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely.
So there you go.
Congratulations.
So we're headed in the right direction with Keith. With Jim, he's I think he sounds like a bitter person, but there's sort of a cottage industry on the left that's been going on for years. They don't think conservatives should be allowed to speak. I mean, they don't think any conservative should be allowed to speak on CNN or anywhere else. And my view is debates are good. Keeping your hands to yourself and getting out of my physical space is good. And I think a little more civil debate would be a good thing.
You are guilty of being conservative. That's really what the harm you bring to CNN, apparently. Well, Scott, always a great conversation. It was really nice to socialize with you last week in D.C. And if you want to join the fun, you can join us on the Gulf of America cruise. As I mentioned before, go to larrycruise.com. Scott and I would enjoy having a drink with you on the Lido deck, and Kurt Schlichter is buying. Scott, great talking with you, my friend. Enjoy Baton Rouge.
Great to talk to you. I look forward to the cruise, and congrats on the new show. You're going to be great. We're big fans.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. All right, coming up, we always joke about Marco Rubio having multiple jobs, and in the last hour, we talked about him being a wedding DJ. Well, forget all that. Set it all aside. Everyone's wondering what Donald Trump's going to do post-presidency. I've got an idea. I think he's going to play the improv. Stay tuned. You'll see.
The secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most sought-after anti-aging products available today. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags in as little as 10 minutes. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects will last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results.
Look at this one under eye bag. It's gone.
I've tried it all, and then I found Plexiderm, and this happened.
The best news, in this super inflated economy, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95 and free shipping. So don't wait. Just call the number on your screen.
Call 800-826-0172.
You're watching Salem News Channel across America.
Sun rising in San Francisco. Good morning to 860, The Answer in that fine town, and everyone else on the West Coast up and down. Larry O'Connor here, O'Connor and Company. We often talk about Marco Rubio having multiple jobs. We riffed on it a bit in the last hour there with his activities as a wedding DJ now, in addition to being Secretary of State and acting National Security Advisor. But set that aside for a moment. President Trump is a man of many talents. And as everybody wonders what he might do post-presidency, I've got a suggestion. Anyone who's ever witnessed a Trump speech live or a rally or what have you, you know that the best parts of those speeches are the things that aren't written by the speech writers, the parts that aren't in the teleprompter. When he begins what is often known as the weave, which is really just Trump going off the reservation and talking about whatever the hell he wants to talk about. And over the weekend, giving a speech to the Forum Club in Palm Beach, he somehow decided to fall on the topic of having a dog in the White House. And well, then this happened.
They all wanted me to buy a dog when I went to the White House. They said, sir, you'll be the first president in 68 years or something that doesn't have a dog. I said, it's not going to work for me. They like pictures of like Biden walking his dog, but his dog was a vicious dog, kept biting our Secret Service people. We had 28 bite problems, 28. This was a violent dog. That's not a dog I'd want. But for 60 years, I guess, even longer, every president's had a dog because they do it for votes. Some of them do it because they love the dog. Probably most of them do it for votes. And I thought it would look quite fake. Like the fake news, it was quite fake. Can you imagine? Donald Trump has purchased a lovely, lovely little poodle. And he walks him religiously every day on the White House grounds as he's inspecting the ballroom that's going on. They walk deep down into a foundation that's going down to China. There's a lot of stuff going on in that foundation, let me tell you.
Hey, that's good. The timing, the delivery, the pacing, the story arc, and that's the weave, because then he ends up talking about the ballroom and then what's going on in the bunker underneath the ballroom. And it's great stuff. But there's a lot of comparisons between Trump and Reagan, and I sort of blanch at that myself as a kid, part of the Reagan youth movement back in the 80s. They're very different types of people. But one thing they definitely have in common is their ability to tell a joke and tell a story. And he's just genuinely a funny guy. Ask anyone who worked in that administration. So maybe post-presidency, you'll see him, in front of a brick wall and delivering stand-up. And who knows? Maybe Trump will go on a national arena tour and not talk politics, not talk policy, not talk MAGA, just do a stand-up. Why not? Stranger post-presidencies have happened. 855-784-4255. Love to hear from you. Not much time left today. Some of you are holding on there and have been wanting to talk. So as the week develops, we'll be doing more call segments, and I do want to hear from you. But Jeff from Allentown, Pennsylvania, apparently a legendary contributor to this program, going back to my buddy Chris DeGaule's days. He wanted to welcome me to the show, welcome me to the network. And Jeff in Allentown, I'm told that you are the UFO guy. All right. Tread carefully here, Jeff, but good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations to you. Salem management did a great job in picking you. So,
that's very kind of you. Thank you. I'll ask for a raise tomorrow.
There you go. Chris picked me as his UFO guy a while back. Hugh Hewitt, not so much.
Well, you'll find that I'm a happy medium between the two. Just so you know, in my early career, I used to fill in for Hugh, and I filled in for Dennis Miller. So that's the best way to describe. And I was brought into the business by Andrew Breitbart. So that's who you got with me. So why are you the UFO guy? Do you have a tinfoil hat? What's the story?
No, I've been studying UFOs since 1968. I'm part of MUFON. I'm an investigator for MUFON here in Pennsylvania. But you were talking about Marco Rubio, and he's starring in the Age of Disclosure documentary. So he has another job there.
And that's all about the disclosure of the UFO files and the truth is out there thing?
It'll bring everybody up to speed from the last 80 years from Roswell to now. And by the way, I'm ultra MAGA, and President Trump will be the disclosure president.
All right, Jeff. I know a lot of people are hoping for that. And you can be MAGA. You can be America First. You can be a conservative Republican and also believe that there's life out there on other planets. By the way, you can also be a Bible-believing Christian. I don't think there's anything outside of our faith that suggests that there could be life on other planets. If God wills it so, he could have created life there. Nowhere in Scripture or in the tradition of our church does it say that we are the only beings that God created just on this planet. So who knows? They could be out there. My position on all of this is if they are out there and if they have interacted with us and if they do have interest in us, I don't want to have anything to do with it. To me, the closest thing to a documentary about alien life forms and UFOs is the movie Independence Day, where everybody welcomed these guys saying, finally, we're going to make contact with alien life forms. And then they tried to destroy us. So thank you, but no thank you. Thanks for being part of our first show. I'm Larry O'Connor. It's O'Connor and Company.